Hi, I'm Kyle.
I'm Josh.
This is Two Guys, One Car.
Welcome to our car.
Dude, it starts with Two Guys, One Car. That's the name. It should start
It's
with
welcome
the
to our car.
name. No, but it has to start with Two Guys, One Car because that's the name of the thing.
Just get in the back seat.
Right along with us.
How long have you been physio for as well?
So working about 3 years. This is my third year, ending my third year. So it's been awesome, bro. Big learning curve from uni. I've only been in like private practice, so it's like working musculoskeletal and sort of things. And I worked a bit in aged care as well.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah, the question I wanted to open up with was the way like humans are going in terms of like technology, posture, spending so much more time sitting behind a desk and not being as active. Do you fear that we're going on like a downward trajectory in terms of our mobility and like our movement and stuff?
I guess generally, like with jobs and things as well, like requirements of people are tending to live more sedentary lifestyles. I guess just compared to our ancestors who are like hunter-gatherers and things like that, they had to hunt for their food, they had to really do things to try achieve survival, whereas we just have everything at access. Pretty much a lot of our human skills like have just atrophied, and I feel like from a philosophical point of view, a lot of skills are kind of getting atrophied, and people are adopting more sedentary lifestyles, sitting behind a desk, not moving and things like that as well. And I guess everyone's also looking for sort of a quick fix nowadays as well. Like, I guess people expect miracles or...
Yeah. We've really fallen into that in the last like few decades in terms of just falling into that innovation. Like we look for everything to be easier.
Like an instant sort of fix.
Yeah. And it's like the 6-minute abs, 5-minute weight loss, follow these 2 tips. And like, we're just constantly about that, like quick consumption, just change our lives instantly.
Yes, definitely. And I guess getting someone else to do that for you rather than embarking on that journey yourself or putting in the work yourself. Because with physiotherapy, it's not just me doing it. It becomes like a partnership, and that's why you have to make your patients understand as well, which can be the hardest part as well, because a lot of patients are probably used to people telling them like, oh yeah, I'll make you feel better, keep getting them to do massage.
But they show up and that's it.
Yes, that's the thing. And I guess people just keep coming back. People have like recurring clients for like years, but they just keep doing the same thing, and they come up for like things called like touch-ups or like maintenance, or to put my hips are out of alignment, I need to click it back in and things like that.
Yeah, they're like, I need to see my chiro, I need to see my physio, but it's like you're doing the same thing.
Yes, it becomes repetitive. That's the thing. Yeah. And I guess the goal is, even in uni, you get told to try. The goal is to empower the patient to lead an independent lifestyle so they don't have to come back, and give them strategies. Like obviously from a business perspective, that's not great. And you want them to come back, that's the thing. But from actual patient point of view and like a society health point of view, you want people to be independent and that as well. So
It'll speak to the type of patients you may end up having in terms of like, you'll have the right people because they want to come get fixed, and then they'll know like that they can speak to their friends and be like, if you want this fixed, like this is the way to do it, you know what I mean? And you can just like grow your clientele maybe based off people who actually just want to get themselves fixed.
No, definitely. And what is interesting, because I only moved to the beaches like 5 months ago, sorry. But the different areas I've worked in, there's different levels of sort of socioeconomic status, education around healthcare and things as well. And I find the population here is a lot more active, or people have been seeing physios their entire life because they've been doing sport and things. So they're a lot more inclined to do active treatments. Or people are also actually a lot more body aware here, and I find body awareness a huge thing in terms of just engaging muscle groups through a squat pattern or shoulder press pattern or just pulling. Wow. Like people have, like in like Rouse Hill or Fairfield, some people have never squatted before or like never done anything.
What do you attribute that to, do you think?
I guess it's just lifestyle circumstance as well. Like a lot of these people are like immigrants who have just come from another country, who have like 4 kids, who do nothing but work and have to survive. So they haven't had time to just do a squat or go to the gym or do anything. And they don't really come to you when they start to get shoulder pain. They literally come to you on the brink of death.
Yeah.
And then expect like you to kind of fix them and things.
Yeah.
super interesting
Yeah.
to just see that difference in.
Yeah, that would be. I would never have thought of that. It's amazing how many people just accept injuries as like, oh, I'm just getting old and stuff. I used to be a mechanic, like working as one, and there were a bunch of guys in the workshop, and they'd always like complain about their back and their shoulders, and like, oh, my body's screwed, man. They're like 28, 30 years old, and I'm just like, no,
Dude, you're meant to be in
this
peak
is not
physical
this
health
is not
at
how
30.
it should be.
Yeah.
And most of it is the underlying factor is like none of them do any strength work or any exercises. Just they show up to work, go home, and like do nothing with themselves. And one of the guys, he actually, I think his sister was a yoga teacher or something, and she just gave him some like basic core exercises to do, and he like did them for a few weeks, and then he came to me like, and he's just like, dude, like my back's fine, like I'm no longer sore. And all it took was like a little bit of strength. And I honestly think for so many like underlying, obviously I'm no physio, but like I feel like a lot of people just lack some sort of stability and strength throughout their body.
Yes, definitely.
I think a lot of people are under the perception as well, because mechanic and all those trades are very physical jobs, that their job is enough to like make them
Keep them
strong.
fit. Yeah.
But it's kind of, I think people have to come to the understanding that their job should be treated like a sport, like athletes. They should be like treated like athletes. Like athletes, for like a basketball player, they have to do some sort of conditioning to perform in their sport, to be able to tolerate that load. And if they're doing repetitive load, like lifting and things like that, they need to think of themselves as almost athletes who need to condition their bodies for that.
That is
Cool
a great
perspective.
outlook.
And
Yeah.
I try to, I use that analogy for a lot of my patients. Well, some of them understand, some of them I guess don't. They're like, oh, but I'm doing this all the time. Like,
Or they're just stuck in the mind of like, I'm not an athlete.
yeah, I'm not an athlete. Yeah, literally. Come on, bro. Like, fuck, yeah, it's tough, man.
And it seems a bit weird, as in like for most people to get their head around the fact that they need to care about their physical health to that extent, that they finish work exhausted and go to the gym and just work on their strength so that they can like live a longer life. Like it's just a lot of people probably just can't understand
That get their head around that concept. That's the thing, and it's hard because there's so many other variables in life. There's so many barriers to physical activity and things. I think a lot of it is just trying to figure out a routine that fits into your lifestyle. So a lot of it is, it's a balancing act. Like I try to make like incidental exercise, so like exercise that people can literally just do in their bed when they wake up, like they're already lying down, rather than having to set aside the time they're lying down. They can just get up, do their bridges, their core stuff, or even like tie bands around their house, so whenever they walk past, just do like 10, 12 reps or something.
That's smart. I kind of do, not to the full extent, like I definitely don't do it all the time, but I got like a rock climbing hangboard that
nice.
as I enter my garage, it's above that door. And when I got it for like quite a long time, anytime I walked into the garage, I had to do like 10 pull-ups on it. And it was just that same kind of thing. Like you just set those habits, routines. And like I see an osteopath sometimes, and he always says to me, like in terms of posture, make it like a doorway thing. Anytime you walk through a door, like reset your posture, check yourself. And it's just trying to create those habits so that it's not like when your back's sore, you're like, oh damn, I need to fix my posture. It's like,
That's true.
keep it going.
It's like ongoing, like you're kind of preventing it getting to that stage when your back is sore. That's the only thing.
100%.
Yes.
And it's for me at least, the goal is more just being functional.
Yes.
Like that's pretty much what I train for. And yes, I'll have like specific things I'm working towards, but for the most part, my overall training is just being functional. Like I want to be able to move through life injury free, do what I want to do, and not wake up and like, oh damn, my back's sore, I can't walk today, or whatever it is. Because I think, I don't know, a lot of people have very specific training goals, which is great.
Yes.
But I find like doing too much of anything is bad for you.
Yes.
And then they go down that path and then they get injured, and then it's like, oh, but I love doing this kind of training. It's like, I think a more functional, and it's different for everyone, but I think a more functional approach is just healthy
Yes.
for longevity.
Yeah, like a holistic approach.
Yeah.
And it's tough because there's so many facets of the human body that you can improve, like flexibility, mobility, strength, endurance, cardiovascular capacity, and it's hard to fit that all into the day, which is the thing. You want to be all these things, and it's just like, fuck, how much time do I really have? That's the thing.
What are your training goals?
I guess the longevity aspect as well. I would like to get better at certain sports right now. So I just picked up surfing, so I'd like to get better at that. It's a super humbling sport though. Oh my God.
Are you like, where are you at in the learning phase? Because I'm also beginning.
I'm very much the beginning. So if you want to ever have a surf buddy, it'd be
100%.
awesome. Because usually I'm like just by myself out there with all these
we
other
have
experts.
we have a mate who absolutely froths it. Like in the last pod, the guest had the challenge was for us to go for a surf, and like I've never surfed, but I'd like want to, of course, but just never get around to it. And like we told our mate, and he was so pumped. So like maybe we should get you out there as well, because he's an absolute. He's so keen to teach.
He's learning as well, and he said he used the term like clinically addicted. It's just like I have to be out there every day. Yeah. But yeah, I'm terrible, so definitely let's go for a surf. Cool. Yeah. So what other goals?
Yeah.
Other goals? I guess I had a flexibility, sort of mobility goal as well. I wanted to get the splits down packed. I took a break from that because I was running. I was getting a bit of groin issues, but I'm planning to get back into that. I guess just overall, I'm into calisthenics as well, so I'd like to get, I guess as an overall thing, just have full range mobility and strength through that range. I feel like I like to have more body weight control compared to just linear pressing movements and things. So like being able to like handstand or like planche or do those kind of things as well. I just think if I have better control of my body, I'm able to better adapt to most situations.
Yeah.
And I'm really a fan of having strength through full range and control. So I like to do dips like real deep, or that's kind of my training style. Yeah. I really like knees over toes guy stuff as well, like pushing through those full ranges, going through full like reverse Nordic styles and things like that.
Yeah, because he speaks a lot about like strengthening through lengthening.
Through lengthening, like, that whole concept, which makes sense.
Which makes so much sense when you think about it. Like we should have strength through the whole motion of the joint and the limb versus like just that middle section where it's like that 90 degree or whatever it is.
And that's what a lot of, I guess, people when they start gymming, like a lot of the gym motions are very uniplanar and through a limited range. And it's, I guess, addictive because it's a lot easier to see progression in those ranges. Like you just add weight. Whereas with like calisthenics or all these other complex maneuvers, it's a bit harder sometimes to see tangible progress because you have to adapt the motion itself, progress into further ranges, requires a lot more cognitive load as well. So I guess it's a bit more challenging in that way.
There's a lot more thought, and also I think we're a bit more like disconnected from our bodies in the sense of, at least I found when I started gymming, trying to just activate certain muscles and feel certain things, like we're a lot further away from that because we just haven't put the energy into that. As you said, like we're just a bit more comfortable with our lifestyle and we haven't needed it for survival to that full extent. So when I first started training, it was like trying to really like focus in on like, all right, what muscles am I using? Like, how do I activate this? How do I activate that? Yes. But when you push through that, the reward is so much greater. Like when I first learned muscle ups, like that was such a long period of time. Yeah. In terms of like benching, I could get my bench up because I could bench press because it's such a normal movement that I could do. So that like reward was always there. Yes. But learning muscle ups, it just took so long. Yeah. You keep chipping away.
There's like, you can get better at getting close to it, but you still haven't done a muscle up. It's like when you're benching, you bench, like you've benched. Like, and if you do like a kilo more, you've done a kilo more. So there's your reward, and then you just go again. But muscle up, you're just like, you just work on it for months, and you don't do a muscle up till you do a muscle up. So it could be just 8-9 months of you just grinding to get it.
And there's that initial frustration of not getting it, like learning a new skill. That whole frustration, that's an interesting part of like skill learning and things. Like they actually talk about it in the Human Men Lab podcast, whereas when you're trying to learn a skill, you have to have a combination of something called acetylcholine, which is like the focus molecule. And you also need to have insane amount of like not stress. You have to have a sense of urgency. Like adrenaline has to be filling in your system. So you have to have intense, like a sense of intensity, urgency, and focus together to create neuroplasticity, which is what causes the like neural connections to fire. So that triggers plasticity, and then plasticity actually forms in your brain when you're sleeping. Wow. So you need acetylcholine, which is the focus molecule. Sorry if I'm losing you guys. And
no.
Adrenaline or norepinephrine to come together. So because norepinephrine is needed for learning to happen, norepinephrine is that stress molecule. So he was saying it's almost needed for you to have that stressful sort of pathway when learning, say like you're learning guitar, learning a new skill, like it becomes frustrating and annoying. But he's saying like it's almost a rite of passage to be able to learn a skill. And a lot of people generally, I guess, get frustrated, and that's when they start to quit because they feel like they don't see the reward instantly. But he said you having that awareness of this being just a part of this process makes, I guess, gives you a bit more of insight that I'm on the right path towards this, and makes you more likely to do it.
For sure. And I think it makes the stress, it changes your outlook on it in the sense of like, it's not like overwhelming stress. It's like, oh, this is healthy stress. This is growing.
It's almost needed. Or
Yeah.
That's so fascinating.
Do they try and does he like give any tips on it in terms of like set a time limit? So say you were talking about learning a guitar. Yeah. It's like, is it healthy to maybe put like in a month's time I need to know how to play this song like really well? Is that what he's trying to say in terms of like that stress?
And so could you say like a time limit? What's like a healthy time limit to get that?
Yeah,
song?
is he saying like in terms of trying to put that stress on yourself?
Yes.
Did he give any tactics in terms of like doing that?
I guess he gives like 90-minute bouts of learning cycles. They're called ultradian cycles throughout the day. He said like you can have focused learning bouts. Generally 90 minutes per learning bout is the best way to do it. Like people generally can't focus for more than 90 minutes. And he said within 90 minutes you can actually get a lot done. But it's just whether we can actually be completely focused or not. And he gives a lot of other tools and tricks to kind of optimize your system to be focused in that state. But it requires a lot of other things. You have to have like a good night's sleep, like good light viewing behavior in the morning, optimizing your temperature and things like that. Those are all ways of kind of optimizing that 90-minute bout of learning. And also he's saying pretty much plasticity is generated, as in stimulated, when you are doing the skill, but you have to make sure your quality of sleep is good to actually consolidate that. Yeah.
Which is interesting because I guess it makes sense as to why, like, I mean, you can learn skills at any point in your life, but why when you're younger it's so much easier because you have no responsibility. So as a parent, you have like a child depending on you. So like your sleep at some degree will suffer because of that. Whereas for me, I have no one depending on me. So I get a great night's sleep. And it makes sense that I should use this time to like learn as many skills as I can as I get older. Obviously I can still learn, but it'll probably be at a slower rate, I imagine.
No, definitely. He even says like until the age of 26, your brain is like a plastic machine. So kids are pretty much picking up, they're like sponges. That's why literally they just pick up a guy who's just swearing or whatever, or does anything. Like they just pick up those habits, like good or bad. They're just always learning. Whereas adults, I guess it's still possible to have plasticity. You just have to have a lot more top-down sort of effort put on. That's all.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah.
It is interesting. Yeah. Sorry, I veered off that topic. I don't know what we're talking about.
No.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Rolling.
Yeah, like, and it's cool that that's the case for all skills in terms of like whether it be like a theoretical skill. So maybe you're learning to, I don't know, something theoretical, and then it also applies to the practicality as well.
Yes, that's the thing.
Yeah.
It's pretty much just a different nerve connection developing in your brain, and then you just implement that. That's all.
We should probably ask some context with you in terms of like you said you've been 3 years out of like study. How did you get into physiotherapy?
I guess in school I just enjoyed learning about the human body. I thought it was fascinating and wanted to do something that created some sort of impact. I initially went for medicine, didn't get in, so I chose physio as a backup, but I didn't really like it in uni, to be honest. I guess just the way they taught it in uni, I wasn't a big fan, and I didn't have any client-facing roles. But until I actually started working, like, I'm starting to love it.
And what did that mean for you in terms of you going through this degree and you were just hating the degree? Did you have the faith that on the other side it was going to be good? Or were you actually worried, or?
I kind of was worried, but I was also, I had to have a perspective change. Also my lifestyle as well. I had other things going on, finished. I was also very sort of reserved in school. I'm from like a Sri Lankan background, which is a very sort of sheltered background, didn't really experience much. So when you go into uni, you just filled with all these life experiences, like you start doing drugs for the first time, drinking, going out, all these like different life experiences happening. So you don't prioritize, I guess, maybe uni work and things like that. I was just kind of experiencing life, doing all these other things. So I took time off uni. I was working at Westpac for like a year and a half just to see what that was like. I hated it, to be honest. I didn't really like that corporate sort of lifestyle.
It's cool though that you got that,
you did it. I feel
know that you don't like that.
That's the thing. Otherwise you'll go your entire life like not really knowing. That's the thing. It's crazy seeing what I did. It was good to see what I didn't enjoy, like just being in like a corporate office, repetitively doing the same thing, pretty much making people's lives worse, like not refunding their credit card fees and things like that. You don't feel really good about yourself.
So you did that, left for a year and a half, and that's sick though, because a lot of people aren't proactive with that sort of stuff. Like you were like, I don't like this, so I'm gonna go do something else, you know. And that's so good. Even if it's shit, it doesn't matter, because you can just course correct.
No, definitely, man. I guess a lot of people become comfortable with being uncomfortable, if that makes sense. Like they're comfortable being unhappy, just because it's pretty hard to like, I guess it's change up, or it's a bit of a process to apply for other jobs.
Like you have to do it for yourself. No one's going to do it for you.
Definitely.
Which is terrible initiators.
No, that's the thing. It's very easy to just get comfortable, and job hunting is such a pain. That's the annoying part about it.
So then you went back and then you finished it. Yeah, and then 3 years ago. And then what was it like after that? So you finish...
Before that, sorry, what was your outlook when you came back?
Oh, yeah.
When you came back into it, were you like renewed, like this fire lit in you? Or were you just like, I'll do it?
No, I don't think... It wasn't just like a flick of a switch or anything like that. I had to have a few life events. I think there was internally, I just had some values or life... like perspectives about my life I had to change. I actually went to Mount Everest. I did like the Everest Base Camp in 2017 or 18.
How was that?
Oh, it was probably one of the best things I've done in my life.
Wow.
Honestly.
And what sparked that?
I pretty much did a volunteer program in Nepal, like for like a physiotherapy volunteer program. But then while I was there, I was like, I might as well just do like 2 hikes. I did the Annapurna, like half the trek, and I did the Everest Base Camp with 2 of my mates. So pretty much it was like a 13-day hike. It's not like crazy, like we could all pretty much do it, but I think...
Still hard though.
Yeah,
it's hard, especially with the altitude. It gets a bit difficult towards the top, but like I met like 70-year-old people doing it, so it's definitely doable. Yeah. I think it was on the last day, so pretty much we didn't actually go to base camp. Base camp's 5,300 meters. The lookout I went to was 5,800. So we had done like a whole day of trekking, and on the itinerary we're meant to stay at this village called Gorakshep and go to, which was at 5,000 meters altitude, and go to 5,800 meters Kalapatar in the morning to see the sunrise. So we got there at 3:45. We'd already done a full day of trekking.
Wow.
So we're pretty wrecked already. Yep. And 3:45 we got there. When we got there, they were like, actually sunset is the time to go, and the sunset's at 5. So it's 800 meter incline, and usually it takes 2 hours. But I was like, fuck it, we got to go now. So we went. So me and my mate went. My guide was like, fuck it, I'm not coming. So he was like, this all go. So we just went. He's like, you guys go. So we went. And it was me and my mate. My mate's a pretty fit bloke as well. He's like a Muay Thai fighter. So he's not like not a fit bloke. He's quite a fit individual. Yeah, he's quite fit. But we were both going up this trek, and I guess not to toot my horn or anything, but I tapped into this mindset that I've never tapped into before. Like it was this sense of urgency. Like I traveled around the entire world to see the sunset. Like I'm not missing the sunset. So it was like one breath at a time. Like it was probably one of the most difficult things I've done. It was like a combination of like the altitude, fatigue. You haven't showered in like 13 days, but I just tapped into this sort of inner beast or animal or whatever, one breath at a time. And I got there like at just before 5. My mate got there like 20 minutes after me. And not to like say I'm a lot fitter. He's a fit bloke or anything.
About the mindset.
That moment, like nothing else mattered but this goal.
Getting to the sunset.
And when you got there, it's like you're like heavily breathing. It's cold as fuck. You're seeing the most beautiful view you've ever seen. It's a very like overwhelming feeling, and I guess in that state it's like those moments you kind of want to like cry, like those like
for sure.
very emotional like sort of moments. You're like, you did this yourself. Like you did this and you're reaping sort of the rewards from it. And it's like, in that moment I realized like there's no life worth living pretty much unless it's outside of your comfort zone, because outside of your comfort zone, if you really strive, you can achieve something like this. And I've never been sort of that present, or if there was enlightenment or whatever, that's probably sort of that feeling, that immense sense of presency where nothing else in my life mattered but that moment. Which was a big turning point for me, because I knew I could achieve that myself, and I did that myself just by my actions, my thought process and things. And I kind of, it had a big change on how I viewed life. I went on this huge sort of personal development route, started listening to podcasts, all these kind of things, and that caused me to sort of do better in uni, finish uni, then come to where I am now.
Wow. So that was like a really definitive moment.
That was one of the bigger ones. Yeah, definitely. I think there's a few life things, and I guess life was but that was one of the bigger ones. Yeah. Sorry, I rambled a bit about that.
No, sorry. It's so interesting. It's so cool how we can have these really random moments that we would never predict, because they're just so pivotal. Like, I don't know, you get to like 80 and people ask you about like your early life, and that's a story you tell, and it's just such a random story, so unique to you. It holds such weight to us. I absolutely love those moments, and I can 100% relate to that kind of a feeling where you want to get somewhere so bad, and you know the only way you're getting there is by you like working harder and finding the way. And like that kind of zone you tap into is such a special place. I remember I did like a big bike ride at the start of the year, and it wasn't nearly as cool in terms of like I wasn't seeing a sunset. I was trying to get to this general store before it closed, because we needed food. We needed food for the next 3 days. And if we got there after it closed, we would have had to have waited till 8 a.m. the next morning. But we had a massive day of riding. We wanted to leave at like 5 a.m. the next morning. So it's 3 hours that would have been gone. So the guy I was riding with, I was on a faster bike. So I was just like, all right, dude, I'm going to hammer. Because we got told it closed at 4 p.m. So I just plug in, and I am absolutely hammering. And like, we're in the middle of Victoria. I don't know exactly how far away we were. It was just like we're a couple hours out. So I just like head to the grind.
Didn't know the logistics. You just knew it's like 4 o'clock. I'm away. I'm far away. I need to get there.
Been riding for like 8-9 hours or whatever at this point, and it was that kind of same thing. I like pulled my phone out when I hit the tarmac. I was like, I have to be close now. Looked, and I was like 15 minutes out or so. I'm riding, get over this hill, and I see this motorbike rider coming up past me, and he has a can of Coke in his hand, drinking it. And I'm like, the store, like, it has to be close because he's drinking a Coke, meaning like it's near. So I just like was pinning it.
Oh, I thought you said it has to be closed.
No, close. Oh, so yeah, close. So like I absolutely hammer, and it's that same kind of thing where my legs, I'm so exhausted physically, but I was like, I am getting there. And it's, for me, I find in those moments the visualization really helps. Of like, I just see myself getting there before it closes. See myself getting there. I like pull up 3:55 p.m. like 5 minutes to spare. Run inside, and I'm just like, because my mate hadn't got there yet, so I was just gonna buy food for him as well. And I was like, oh, like, what time do you guys close? Like 4? They're like, oh, we close at 5 o'clock. And I'm like, oh. But I just felt so good, because like that sense of reward and that gratification was there, because I had pushed through what like was seemingly at the time like initially impossible, but then I just made it happen, and it was me that made that happen through just putting one leg after another.
And like you guys are talking about on a really big scale, but even like last night, like think about, we like this, I feel like this stuff happens like every day as well, and you can actually take like lesson out of that too. Yesterday we were at this place in the city with another mate to get these like cheesesteaks.
Philly cheesesteaks.
Yeah,
we'd never had
one.
Never had
one. We're like, we need to find one. Anyway, Josh found this spot, so we walk in, like found the place, walk in, and it's like a sort of like a rooftop. It was like a cocktail bar, we think, but like we just wanted the food. So we're at the front door. Well, not the front door, like the entrance, and there's like a line of about 10 people, and then there's just this white sort of door, and we're like, oh, like what's everyone lining up for? Like, is this a line for the place? Like it's there, and then you go up, and then they were like, we were just kind of waiting there, and then someone's like, no, it's like the elevator. I'm like, oh, I'm like, wait. For the elevator. And we're like, oh, wait, so is the stairs, like, can you go up the stairs? They're like, yeah. So we're like, we're like, why? Because there was like 10 people lined up. It's like, why is no one going up the stairs? Anyway, so we're like, we'll take the stairs. So we start running up the stairs, and there's like, what, 5, 6 flights?
Yeah, I don't know. And in my mind though, because when I was like, oh, obviously I'm taking the stairs, I start running up. And initially I just thought like, oh, there could be no more than 3 stories. I'm like, wait, we're in the city. This could be a freaking skyscraper.
Yeah, and then we thought like, and there was like 1 or 2 like staircases up. I thought that too. I was like, oh shit, we could be, yeah.
The ego in me was like, we have to beat these people in the way.
Yeah. So anyway, so we get up to the top, walk in, like go and find a table. The last table there, like we take.
Because it was so packed.
It's packed, like packed. So we take the last table, but it was because we had the initiative to take those stairs that we got the last table.
Like a minute later, the girl walks out that was in the lift. Yeah.
Later.
And I was like,
there was no table. So it's the same thing, but it's like on a smaller scale of like just putting in the work, and then like we reaped the reward from it. Yeah,
it was so good.
Awesome.
So yeah, you came back from Everest and then plugged into uni.
Yes, that's what I mean. Just to go back, Human actually talks about like visualization. Like he has a podcast about visualization and goal setting and things, and how runners actually use, as in visualization is actually such a powerful thing for achieving goals. What runners actually do, when they're running for like long distances, they visualize a target in front of them, say like a runner's pair of shorts. And they've done studies to show that by people actually honing in and visualizing on a singular target in front of them, or any sort of target, it reduces their perceived effort level and actually increases their performance as well. So pretty much like if you listen to most long distance runners or sprinters or anything like that, they're pretty much just looking at people's shorts in the front or like a target in the front. And then as they pass that target, then they just readjust. That
makes sense.
It makes sense just on the like non-scientific level of just like, just set your mind to just like the tiniest thing, so you don't have to cognitively like
just expend energy thinking about everything else.
Just focus on that one thing.
And I love that kind of stuff because it's kind of intuitive as well, but so what were you saying?
No, like it 100% is. I find I don't have to think about that stuff, but when I do long distance stuff, I visualize like a person, you know Mario Kart?
Yes.
You know ghost mode, how you race, like I just have this guy in front of me, it's me, and like it's the best version of myself, and I'm never going to beat him, but he's always one step ahead of me, and I see that in front of me, and I just find it so easy to hone in, and I'm like, I'm just chasing him on his heels.
Yes,
Definitely. It's crazy how intuitive it is.
Love the idea of the perceived effort too, like that, how that reduces that, because when you're in the suck, like just like feeling the pain, it just takes over. So but if you can limit your brain to not even be thinking about your perceived effort and literally just think about staying on that person. Definitely. It's an interesting thing because most runs have like pace setters. So like if you do something like, if it's a big event, like there'll be like someone setting a pace. So like that must do a whole lot. Like that should be something that everyone uses, like that tool. Like they just have a flag on their back. Like if you know you want to run it in that time, just stick with the person. Like don't try and get ahead.
No, definitely.
Because then you're just focusing on them to stay right behind them the whole time.
No, that's what I've been doing for my like longer runs as well. Even at like the faster runners, they have like even sometimes bike riders in front of them with a flag, and they're just running after them as well.
Do you have any goals in terms of your running?
In terms of my running, I just signed up for a marathon in April next year with my girlfriend.
Wait, where? Where's the marathon?
I think it's in Canberra.
Yeah,
so we're planning to do that. I haven't signed up, but I've agreed to do it.
The contract with
the contract. Yeah.
And do you take that heavy? Like, as in when you say you're going to do something like that, are you?
Like, do you put a lot of weight on that?
Yeah, I'll do it. And I'm pretty competitive. And my girlfriend said she'll do it, and I'm pretty competitive with it. It's a healthy competition, but it's good. Yeah, she said she'll.
I'm gonna crush her.
It'll be good.
Will that be your first marathon?
Yeah, first marathon. I did a half this year, so it's good. I mean, it definitely sucks. As in, you definitely hit a wall at times. I've never done 21 Ks before. And you definitely go through a big sort of mental journey. I don't know if you listen to like David Goggins' book and things like that. So that guy's insane.
I've listened to hours of Goggins since I was like,
hard. I love that guy.
That's my like white noise falling asleep.
Man, he used to be my alarm clock as well.
Really?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Oh, that's so sick.
As in, there was like an app you can choose a YouTube video to be your alarm clock. So I just put like Goggins videos up. Yeah, fucking hell, it was super intense.
Yeah, that's so good.
I recently got like a light simulator alarm clock, like a sunrise and sunset. it is honestly day and night between waking up to light versus sound for me. I find sound like, I don't know, triggers some form of like a panic. There's like some form of stress when I wake up to sound versus
even if you know, like,
Light.
because we set the alarm, so we know, our body knows it's like wanting to, like your mind is wanting to wake up at that time. It's still frightening, like waking up to an alarm.
But yeah, light is just so much nicer to wake up to.
Do you find it like a reliable way to wake up? As in,
No, and that was my fear for when I first got it. I would set my like phone alarm as well, but like 5 minutes later, just in case I didn't wake up. No issues. Wake up. I've woken up every single time to the light.
cool. I use my phone watch vibrate, so I do use that now. I found like that less invasive as sound as well, but I think light would be awesome.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Is it what is it like? How is it? Is it like your actual lights?
Oh no. So it's just like I bought it off. Actually got it off Marketplace for $25. You can buy them on Amazon for like $50 or so. It's basically like a lamp or a light that big, and it's just on my bedside table. And say if I set my alarm for 6:30, the light will come on at 6, very dim, and over the half an hour it'll increasingly get brighter and brighter.
That's awesome.
And by 6:30 it's at full peak, and I find I usually wake up like 10 minutes into the light coming on.
That's mad.
It's so good. And I do the sunset as well, so 15, 30 minutes or 60 minutes, and then I'll just get in bed and read. Because I found one of my biggest issues was having my phone in my room. I would be on it before bed, and then as soon as I wake up, and it just so much like mental cloud, or so much like cloudiness in the mornings and throughout the day. So I really wanted to get like all technology out of my room in terms of like phone, laptop, etc. So I don't have those in my room anymore, and just wake up to the light, and it's honestly insane. Like it's like the one thing I'm like, you have to do this.
Yeah, nice. If you could link me that afterwards, that'd be awesome.
100%,
Yeah,
man.
that's dope.
100%. So running, because he just did a marathon, like the Sydney Marathon last week.
I ask you is like, what sort of prep are you like? This is a selfish question because I need to do more of this. Because the way I've been looking at it, like, done a couple now, and like we did a half Ironman in like last year. Time last year.
God damn, bro.
Yeah. And then like I've done 2 maras since then, but the way my brain looks at it is too Gogginsy.
Yeah.
Just
like
baked cookies.
Literally just like, it's just a mental grind. Like it's just like get after it. It's I've not put any form of science into it. Like the preparation is like minimal. So it's just been like getting after it. So what sort of prep are you going to be doing in terms of like going into that marathon? Because I'll be doing a marathon, the next one. Did you say April?
Yeah, it's April.
Yes, I'll be doing one in April as well. The Newcastle one.
Oh, I think
new run?
I think it's probably that one. Yeah, sorry, not Canberra, Newcastle.
Shit, dude. So we're going to be doing the same marathon.
Probably, yeah. Because
Awesome.
that's the only one that's not like laps. It's one. That's not a lap.
It's laps.
It's laps.
Yeah. Are you doing a lap one?
I think so.
If so, I would
I
suggest
think
it.
it's an April. It's a
Because
good one.
that was the first one I did. So I did that last year.
Interesting. Okay.
So it's just
That was this year.
this year. Sorry. Yeah. Oh, whoa. That was like 6 months ago.
Oh,
Yeah.
jeez.
But yeah, that's it's 4 laps of like 10.4. I think it would be. Yeah.
Right.
And it was it was really flat,
Okay,
really
cool,
flat.
cool.
So it's really like it was good to do that as my first one because I just did this Sydney, which is totally different.
The Blackmore's one? Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
a
Yeah.
lot more scenic, eh? I would say.
Yeah, definitely. A bit more hills as well.
Yeah.
So a bit more hilly.
Yeah, hills are tough. Oh man.
Yeah. So what sort of prep? Like you might not have thought about it too much, but in terms of like, what are you going to do for that?
I guess a lot of it is going to be load managing as well, because cardiovascular wise, you can probably push your body. It's just whether your bones and your muscles and tendons can adapt to it. So generally, like even with my runners, like for my patients and things, you don't want to increase more than like 5 to 10% load per week.
Okay. Yeah.
So you want it to just be a gradual sort of thing. Most marathon runners I've talked to, they said they don't even get to the full marathon run before.
It's more like around 30k.
30Ks, 30 to 35, like something around that range. So probably like even like maybe within a month or so, I want to hit more like that 30k mark. I guess that's my general plan at the moment. I'm doing runs here and there now, but I want to actually start to develop some sort of barefoot training. So I want to actually get into that maybe. And it's like, I guess it's 4 months away. So yeah, how long did you train for your marathon for? Like, did it take? Oh, you didn't really train.
So the first one, right. So the first one was just so underprepared. Like, and I did the first one with a mate, and then I did the second one with that same mate, and then someone else. And like we had the same approach. Like the first one was just, dude, like actually nothing. Like I think the last time I ran before it, 6 weeks.
You did the full 42 Ks.
You
ran the full 42 Ks.
Pardon?
You ran the full 42 Ks.
Yeah.
With no prep. That's pretty insane.
No. But see, for me, like that's not good. Like you telling me that because that's the thing I need to avoid is that like, cause I can go and just get it done. Like I'll get in and clock it and just like get the mental work done. But I've got this, so I need to work on actually working smarter, not harder.
Did you get any injuries or any like bone stress fractures, shin splints?
Nah, not that I know of. But,
okay. Well, that's impressive. That's impressive.
Yeah.
Guess you're a bit of an anomaly then.
How's the like running, like your foot and stuff?
Oh yeah, I've had like lingering like little injuries and stuff like that. Like I just had like the bottom of my foot before this one. Wait. So I'll go from the other one. The other one was like literally no training. Like I ran maybe, I'd like to say I probably ran like a half marathon 6 weeks before it. And then before that was like 4 weeks before it. Like in a 10-week span, I'd run once before it. Okay. So barely anything. But I sort of had that running base from, so you're like, oh, you didn't run and then you did a marathon. Like I still had a little bit of running base from our half Ironman, which was September last year. Okay. So like I still, because I trained for that and I developed running through that. So it was kind of like, I still had a bit of that and like I could pick up running and I guess the lap thing, like, I don't know. And it was just a trip away, like the day before, we left like a day before and then got there. It was like a thing and I was like, I'm finishing this, you know what I mean? So got that done. But then this one was like, all right, I'm going to prep more, obviously. And like, you know, like obviously, right? And then but didn't prep enough. Like maybe about 6-7 weeks before this one, I was like, shit, I need to get going. So I just started doing like, half marathon Mondays. So every Monday just run a half marathon.
I told him because he had a goal. He wanted to run sub 350. And he was like 12 weeks out. I looked him in the eyes and I was like, hey,
you're not finishing
like
this.
I truly believe you're capable of running sub 350, but your training has not reflected that. So I'm telling you right now, I honestly believe you're not going to do it. And then
I'm like, fuck off.
And I was like, I was hoping that would fuel him and I wanted to be wrong. But like
he was right.
I was right because it just didn't happen.
So it was that, and then like, dude, and getting closer, it ramped up like to 30s. Like there was 130, but like running during the week as well.
That's like not a bad amount. Like
but it wasn't like performance. Like it wasn't like I just did 30 Ks. It wasn't like I was leading up to 30 Ks structurally. It was just like I just went out and ran. I just laced up the boots. I literally started at Mona Vale Beach, like the 30K I did before it. Ran to freaking Manly and then just came back. So it's like just doing that sort of shit. And something I've taken from it is just like there is two aspects, or the way my brain sees is two sort of fields of thought, and it's just the mental toughness. But then there's also like once you start getting to this level, like that level of endurance, it's just like it really does matter.
Need intelligence.
Yeah, you need intelligence. And I think everyone says that. Anyone who does it says that. There's no one who doesn't, you know. And I forgot what I was going to just say. But like, and you could tell in the run, like I was doing really well at the start, like the most recent marathon, and like doing really well. And then I got to about the half marathon and it all dropped off. So like I was on track to do the 350 and then it all like quicker than 350 if I kept running that pace, and then just dropped all the way off from about like 20, like just after 25. So maybe like 26, 27 Ks in, just dropped off. And that's like evidence of like me not preparing and training.
Do you feel like that was mentally you got there, or physically your body was just
because like the mental's still there, but I also know that I hadn't prepped well enough for that. And I think it's like, yes,
you couldn't be confident in your body, but you could be confident in your mindset to finish.
Yes. But I wasn't confident in my mindset to finish in 3 hours and 50 minutes. Does that make sense? Like there was no doubt I was,
because that confidence comes through your training.
Because this was the second one I've done. So now it wasn't about finishing it. It was about getting it in a certain time. So it's a different mindset. Definitely. So for you now, it's probably just going to be like, finish.
I just want to finish. That's the thing. But I feel like I would want to also condition my body to mitigate any sort of bone stress or anything like that as well, because that's the last thing I want.
100%.
I mean, like, I know it's possible, like David Goggins did it with stress fractures. This guy fucking shot himself. This guy's insane.
But why?
But why? Yes, that's
Exactly.
I guess his idea, he says like no one has to do what he does, but he just shows that there is that potential.
And he's so important. You need him to be that intense for his message to come across as powerfully as it does.
Yes.
People misread him all the time. They're like, stop telling people to live like this. It's like, he's not. He's never told anyone to live like that.
No, definitely not.
He's just a messiah.
Physically says, definitely. He's just an anomaly, but he just shows the potential and that pretty much we as human beings just are settling, or a lot of people are settling for a lot less.
For way less, definitely. And I liked the point you made about how cardiovascular fitness increases way faster than like our muscles, like ligaments, tendons, because that's something when I first started doing endurance stuff, I noticed straight away was like, you feel so much better, because I would say, at least for me initially, like your cardiovascular health almost determines like the feeling more so than the muscular initially. Like, so at the start it's hard because you're breathing heavy, and then you get fitter really quickly, and then you feel so much better, and you're like, oh, I just want to go further and further. But it really does take discipline to be like, no, like I know my muscles aren't there, I just need to dial it back and do it properly.
Which is so hard, and it sounds like that would be easy because you're like, oh, it's just harder work, so it's easy to take the easier route. But
the easy route is to keep going and say you like, oh, today I'm gonna run a 12k or a 15k, and then you get to 15, you're like, oh, 20 is not that far, it's only 5 more k. It's like, no,
stop.
Don't do this to yourself.
That's what I find hard with a lot of my patients, especially here, because a lot of them like are triathletes and things. Like resting is a hard thing to tell them. Like some people are not active enough. Some people are they just can't rest, or like they have like shin splints or like tendon issues, and they just. I just did another 5k run like the other day. I'm just like, fuck, man. Like, what do I do? Hey,
that's cool though that you, like, I think is this blessing and a curse having the knowledge in the certain field. Like for me, like knowing a lot about cars, like it's a blessing and a curse, because where someone can drive a car ignorant about cars, like stress free, but then I get in their car and hear a sound, I'm like, oh no, that's not good. But they have no idea. But you have it to the extent where it's like, every minute, because like you're not in a car every minute, but you're in your body for every minute. So it's like, do you find that there is that stress there of like knowing, oh no, this isn't good for me, or like?
Yes, when I feel something, or I'm constantly sort of conscious of it, but it also depends on circumstance. Like I guess if this is a run, say like I've been training for, I'm feeling some sort of pain, I'm willing to like push myself through this and I guess maybe reap the consequences later if I value that as much as possible. I say the same for people as well. Like say they have like a grand final on Friday, but they have a tendon issue. Like we just pretty much, I'm not going to fix them. They're probably going to get aggravated, but we just got to tape them up, do certain things to allow them to just get through that sort of game. Because that's, at the end of the day,
that moment matters more. And we're never going to be in that perfect shape. Our bodies are always like recovering, always trying to adapt to new stress.
Yeah, that'd be a dangerous spot to be in, thinking that you have to be like perfect to go and do things. Like definitely not. No, definitely it's not. Weighing it up. Like what do you find?
And it's like, do you know Ned Brockman, the guy running from Perth to Monday at the moment? Like, dude, he is insane. And it's like, you look at him, it's like any physio or anyone from like a medical background, just looking at it purely.
Oh, bro, that's literally what I thought. Stress fractures, anything.
Stop, that's so dumb, that's so dumb. But for him, it's like, no, this is the thing that I signed with myself. I signed that contract. I want to do this. This cause is greater than me and my ego. I'm going to keep going and like deal with that stuff later. But insane.
What he's doing. How is he doing right now? I think it's like on day 20.
Yeah. He's clocked a month.
Yeah, he's clocked a month. Yeah. He said roughly 14 days left or so, because
he'll do it in probably like
44, 45 days.
I saw a post today. He said he wasn't going to get the record or something like that, but still he's going to finish.
It's so impressive.
But just ridiculous, bro.
It's frightening how people, like, we've talked about this heaps, but like, it's frightening how people like diminish his achievement based off the fact that he didn't do it in 40. It's like, shut up. Like, come on. Like,
anyone running like across the country is nuts. It's wild.
Because you could just say like, oh, I didn't get the record. And then it's like, oh, you didn't do a good job. But it's like, dude, you ran from one end of Australia to the other. Crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts. And it's crazy how they like, I think they're doing a really good job at documenting the journey and like giving a bit of insight into the reality of it. when he like had a couple days off, and then he like put a post up saying whatever his condition was, I forget what it was, but it was something like with his shin, and basically he couldn't like lift his feet off the ground, like his nerves were that inflamed or something. Yeah, he like couldn't actually lift his leg. So then he got like 2 cortisone shots, I think, in his nerve, in his shin. And then he got like I think they said an orthopedic rubber or elastic that every time he stepped, it would lift it up.
Right,
and then he's like...
That's like what neurological patients, like stroke patients have that issue.
It was like, and it was
insane.
The way they label it in the caption, it's like, there's option 1, like pull the pin, or option 2, like get the rubber band, get the shots, and it's like, obviously option 2 is the way we went. And then next day, 100 Ks. And it's like, the fear of... Because like I have to imagine that is going to be like a lifelong injury, surely.
Yes, there could be some long-term damage, definitely. But I guess you even look at Goggins and stuff as well, and that guy's still doing
Getting it done.
insane things as well. I guess this guy's just tapping into something. I guess it just shows the power of the human mind, and our bodies will eventually always adapt. I'm not going to say this guy's going to be disabled forever, but there's going to be some injuries and things like that. But as long as he weighed it up, and this cause is definitely greater than that, I'm sure he can live with that.
Justify
honestly,
that.
yeah, definitely.
That's so cool. So what is it about the mental side of running and endurance that you like?
That I enjoy, I guess it's a place my mind doesn't go to that place generally all the time in daily life. I picked it up in lockdown mainly. Initially I did it as a way of kind of bonding with my dog. Like my dog's a beagle, so he loves running. He doesn't like walking, and it's an interesting, cause it's like that one time during the day. Obviously with dogs you don't have any like sort of communication other than body language, but it's that one time during the day where we're both running or doing something towards a common goal. We're both sort of in that same wavelength, running towards a certain target. So it's like, it's weird. It was like an interesting way of sort of bonding. Cool. Which I cool. It was pretty interesting. I did like acid once, and I was running with my dog, and I was sort of like tapping into sort of that wavelength. Like me and him were sort of like in that same frequency together, kind of going towards that dog. And I've never felt like that close to my dog in my life before. It was pretty insane experience. Yeah, it's cool.
How has it been coming out of that trip, and then your relationship with your dog?
It's been interesting. I guess I feel like I pick up body language. I guess when you're on tabs and things, you tend to see different, like body language is a huge thing on tabs. Like you're picking up energy, wavelengths, frequencies and things like that. And that's the whole way of communicating with your dog as well. And I feel like I am able to just maybe tap into that a little bit more now, which is interesting, I guess.
Did you do much research? Obviously you have like a pretty good understanding of the human body and the mind, etc. Did you do like a bunch of research before you like did acid? Or
no, actually I just did it sort of recreationally in 2013. This was when before this was when I was in uni. I actually didn't know what acid was, to be honest. As in I knew what like weed was and things. I had friends who had done it, and I kind of trusted the decision. I didn't know to the extent of what I was going to experience. Have you guys done psychedelics before?
Yeah, I've done acid once and mushrooms once.
Mushrooms, okay, yeah. Well, the first time I did it, you probably can vouch. It's hard to explain to people, I guess, who haven't done it before. It's pretty insane. I guess the more I've sort of listened to podcasts, done it as well, I've come to like a bit more of an understanding of it. It seems like I guess the idea of psychedelics is, the term means mind manifesting. So pretty much whatever's happening in your brain is like sort of, your reality is being perceived as what's happening in your brain, which is interesting. I thought initially, I guess I didn't think too much into it. I was just having visual hallucinations, a lot of euphoria waves, all these kind of things as well.
And your intention was recreational as well.
That's the thing, yes. I guess I started to do it more and more. I actually had a very challenging trip. I went through a sort of like a thought loop, which was very sort of very challenging, quite uncomfortable. I wouldn't say it was a bad trip. I guess people say things are bad trips, but I think I got something out of it. Like I learned a lot about my mind.
What was that like?
Very uncomfortable, because it made me realize how much of an overthinker I am. I'm generally innately very much an overthinking sort of person. I guess generally in our life, we're always going through thought loops. Like saying you're in a situation, someone says something to you, you don't respond how you actually feel, you've already created another thought loop, a thought process in your brain to respond to that person, if that makes sense. So if you're never honest, you're never really present because you're creating this other thought process to respond to how you actually feel, if that makes sense. And we're always going to be doing those thought loops throughout our life, but it's just when you're on acid and you're going through that, your reality literally becomes your brain, so it's hard to escape that thought.
Yeah, it becomes conscious a bit more.
Yes, becomes conscious.
The
Yeah,
subconscious just bearing it.
no, definitely, and it's very confronting and in front of you, and you can't sort of waver away from it, which I guess is a thing we all sort of have to do in our life. We constantly try to, I guess, not confront what's happening in our brain, and it's not us avoiding it doesn't mean it goes away. It's still lingering in there, and it's just pending there. That's the thing. So
And
I
that's
guess
like 20, 30 years later, it comes up, people like kill themselves, and that's why suicide's such a common thing
prevalent
these
thing.
days.
Yeah, definitely. It's just all this unresolved issues. And I'm not saying you have to do psychedelics to do. There's so many other practices like meditation, journaling. I find journaling super therapeutic, like just writing and things
100%.
like that. It's there's lots of avenues to do, I guess, to just sort of listen to what's happening in your brain, but we all need some sort of outlet. I find psychedelics is a cool way to do that. I guess it's just a lot of people have had, I guess, negative but also very fruitful and therapeutic experiences for it, and there are a lot of research coming into actually using it in like psychiatric therapy and things like that, which is cool. Like I don't know if you know a guy called Michael Pollan. He wrote a book called How to Change Your Mind, but he was talking about how they use psychedelics in palliative care patients, cute dog, palliative care patients or like cancer patients.
Wow.
So pretty much doesn't cure their cancer or anything, but people report, obviously when you're in palliative care, you have this immense fear over your condition that's kind of taking over your life or weighing on your life. But people report that the fear of the condition literally like manifests in front of them like as a physical entity, and they sound super voodoo and hippie and things, but
you
they
can, like, form a relationship with it and almost like find a peace in it.
personify, yeah, definitely. And pretty much they tell it to fuck off, not fuck off, but like get over it pretty much and process it or come to terms with their condition.
It's making it tangible.
find a peace with it.
That's cool.
And their quality of life just exceeds from there just because they come to terms with their condition,
because-
which is insane.
Like I've obviously never been in a position where I've been told like I'm terminally ill.
Yes.
But there's no way you could imagine what that would be like until someone tells you. But I can just imagine the weight of that. Like, how do you think about anything else? Like, how can you enjoy the meal with the lingering thought of like, I could be dead in 6 months or 3 months.
Literally.
Like, it is insane.
Yes. Every action, every thought is just that's attached to it now. Yeah.
But even if you're someone who doesn't think that far ahead, it's like even if you like have come to terms with the fact that you'd be happy to, if I died in the next 4 years, I'd be happy. Like I'm doing the things I love, happy. The fact that you just now have an expiry date, like that would be haunting. It would just occupy your mind. I feel like in terms of like how you were saying, like the way you deal with it and stuff, I feel like physical activity is definitely a way to deal with that.
100%. Yes. It's almost, I value exercise so much. I'm definitely, I feel like I need exercise, and I'm very glad I'm in that situation because I find a lot of people look at exercise as sort of a chore, things like that, but I'm so glad I have that relationship with it. Yeah, it's amazing. I don't know if you guys have that as well.
100%. Like if I don't do things for a certain amount of time, like I can feel the weight of it, like mentally, physically, just everything. Like even like even if you've had a certain amount of time off, like now it's been like almost 2 weeks since I've done any running since the mara, and like we've been pretty chock-a-block, but that's up to me. I need to make time for it. But like I'm so keen to get back in the shoes and just like just clear the mind.
It's massive. I found for me, there's like things that I know I need to do to feel good and like feel on, and exercise is definitely one of them. But I was wrestling with this thought, I think it was last year, and I was like, the fear, or not the fear, but the understanding that something could happen in which I might not ever be able to exercise again. And like at this point in time, I was deeming that like I need to exercise to feel okay. Like what if I wake up tomorrow and that's my reality? Because our bodies are deteriorating and they're aging. So like there could come a day or something could happen where that's not the case, and I'm like,
or even you just get hit by a Mack truck and you have no legs anymore.
And I'm like, so what does that mean then in terms of exercise? Like, am I anchoring my, like, not joy, but am I anchoring like my sense of in exercise? And I'm like, at that time I was like, I almost think I am. I think exercise for me like wasn't my goal at the time, but like it almost was. I was kind of idolizing it in an unhealthy way, where I'm like, I need to understand that like that can't be it. It can't be exercise.
There has to be something else as well. Oh yeah, you have to look above that as well, or have other avenues as well. 100%. That's the thing. And I guess it is. I guess with human beings, we're constantly trying to. We need outlets. We have all these things going on in our brain. Like even artists, they're just trying to express themselves. They're trying to convey or articulate whatever's happening in their brain out there. And I think that's also another way, like even art, or even you guys doing your podcast.
We're all artists in our own ways.
We talk about this being like super therapeutic, just sitting here and just stopping what we're doing and just having a conversation, someone being very present. Like you can't not be present at the moment. Like in this conversation, it's like impossible not to. So it's like, this is like one of those ways.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
I'm impressed by what you guys are doing. Like you must gather quite a few cool perspectives from just different people.
It's insane. It's honestly like the benefits that we get from this were not things that I considered coming into it. Like just the knowledge. Like I actually really am finding I enjoy talking to people that specialize in certain fields and like are experts in that field.
Which is selfish, but
it's just like, you know so much. So it's like, I want to learn from you.
Yeah.
And then it's also the fact of, it's a great networking skill. You just meet so many people. And we were saying this with the guy we had on the other day, but like, you don't hang out with these people all the time, but then you come on the pod, you have like a really good two hour or so, like intentional conversation, and then you part ways. And then like a year later or 6 months later, you like need a favor or you like ask for whatever it is. And you have good like rapport with them because the last time you hung out, it was such a really good experience. Yeah. Whereas like, I don't know, somebody else you might not have that good a relationship with that you like see in different scenarios. But this is just, I find it so healthy.
That's awesome, man. And it's also like an instant icebreaker. We're not having just small talk conversation. We're like getting into the nitty gritty. We're talking about so many different concepts, and these are the kind of conversations you want to have like all the time in your life.
100%, man. And it was like, that was how we met. We were in the sauna at the gym. Yeah, definitely. And well, I think I initially came up to
you asked if I was doing knees over toes guy stuff.
Yeah, doing knees over toes guy stuff. But then we were in the sauna, and again, like speaking to something like I just know to be true, and something like I try to push with vulnerability is when you're physically and mentally uncomfortable, like you're more prone to be vulnerable because you don't have the energy to hold up these walls and facades. And we're in the sauna, like really struggling, and the conversation level is just so much better because like you have no energy to lie to me about your insecurities and I have no energy to lie about mine. So we're just so honest, and it creates that bond. We met each other really, 15 minutes we've probably spoken before this. And like,
but the value of those 15 minutes was so high because you were both like, the barriers just were non-existent because you were doing something tough.
Yeah. Two guys in a sauna.
Yeah. We actually did. We actually at my episode. Yeah, we did. Yeah, at my house, it's like a complex, like one of those townhouse complexes. There's like a sauna there. Oh no. So like one night, like something went wrong with like a couple of other like 2 pods that we had lined up. Like anyway.
Had to jump in.
And so we had to get one done. We're like, fuck, like where are we gonna do it? Like, and I had to edit it that night, and he had something on. Yeah. So it's like 10 p.m. He gets to mine. And because we're like married to the idea of, well, not married, but like we are.
have to release every Friday.
Every Friday.
We made a commitment to ourselves that we were going to do that, and we want to uphold that. So it was like Thursday night, get in the sauna at 10 o'clock, record. And, just us two,
shirts off,
and then
jocks on. Just getting.
And it was great. It was great.
Yeah, it was sick.
And it was fun. And I think as well, initially I was a bit like worried of, does our quality diminish because we feel this pressure to release every Friday? But I was like, it doesn't, because that is who we are. Like this is part of us. It's showing like Kyle and Josh. It's showing that side of like, no, we're committed to this, so we're gonna do this, and we got it done.
So even if it's like you could deem it shit, but at the same time, it's actually good quality for us because it was just us being accountable. Yeah, and that's what we wanted to do.
And you're doing this for yourselves anyway, not anyone else.
That's definitely. It's like, I don't care.
And that's what we were saying as well. What's so cool about doing this as well, or anything like online, I guess, where like like ideally, like you need that kind of audience base to make money and like have a career from it in that sense. At the start, like nobody is listening. So like it really does weed out the people that are doing it for that fame and doing it for I don't know, unhealthy reasons, in my opinion, because no one's listening at the start. So if you keep doing it, it's like, oh, you're actually doing it for yourself, which is cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And just to keep like pushing on, like, and doing this as much as we can. It's just like, I love it. It's so good.
That's crazy. So you're doing so you record every week? Is that what you guys are doing? Or you've got like a backlog? Yeah, okay,
so
cool.
At the moment, we're in a real grind process to backlog because we're going away to like film this
Yeah, I was
documentary
gonna say.
in
Yeah.
the next couple of
What's
weeks.
that about, the doco?
It's called The Drive. It was meant to happen. It's Josh's like conceptualized idea basically, but it's like, have you seen those like shitbox rallies?
Which one?
Shitbox
No,
rallies.
no,
So
no.
it's like you just get a shit.
So they buy like a car. Basically, there's an organization called the Shitbox Rally. You buy a car for under $1,000. They change the route every year. Maybe it's like Alice Springs to Townsville, Melbourne to Cape York, or whatever it is, something crazy. And you raise money. I believe it's for Cancer Council. But there's quite a big wait list, and to get in is like a hard, long process. So I was initially going to do it with some other mates in 2020. We thought of it in 2019. And we were going to drive from here to Uluru.
Yeah.
And they were initially keen on just doing it and like maybe filming a bit. And I'm like, oh, like it'd be sick if we could actually raise money for something we believe in. Started like getting in that train a bit more and hit up one of my mates who is like a videographer. Yeah. And then was like, pitched him the idea. He's like, dude, I love it. That's sick. We're about to set off. And then COVID hit, lockdown. I asked those guys if they wanted to do it once everything opened up, and they all said no. And then I like asked all these guys that we're doing it with now, which I'm happy about in terms of, I think, and there's nothing wrong, but I think my intention was always, this is greater than me and my experience out there. It's for mental health and hopefully to actually like have a large impact. And I think for them, it was a bit more about their experience, which again, there's nothing wrong with that. But now these guys are doing it with a really aligned with like, no, like this is about more than us just driving out there and having fun. It's like, we really want to have great impact. So buying cars for under $1,500. There's 3 cars, 4 characters, 2 filmers, and we set off next week. Raising money for Gotcha for Life. Do you know that charity? Do you know Gus Warland? He was on like.
Gus Warland? No,
yeah. Okay. No, don't be sorry. He has like a mental health foundation there.
Cool.
Their vision is like 0 suicides, which aligns with exactly what I believe in, what I want to achieve in life. So yeah, it'll be super fun. My mate we're making a documentary and it's gonna be a great time.
That's dope, man. You gone for a week or 2 weeks?
No, so we're going for
Filming is like 6 to 7 days, for that. But then we'll like for our stuff, the 2G1C stuff, we want to like take the route back like a little bit, like take a week to come back.
Yeah.
Or just over a week, see some places and like
just get some perspective and hopefully like meet people out there and have pods with them out there and stuff.
Sick, man.
just like pull people off and just be like, hey, this is our gimmick. What do you think? Yeah, and then just like see how it goes. Just shoot our shot. And like while we're out there, of course, we need to make the most of it, right? I don't even know how we're getting on top of that. On the topic of that. Oh, the backlogging. So at the moment, trying to backlog. For that, which we've done, but then just backlog. So that and then we can be more free. And I was actually thinking about this the other day. It's just so we can do other stuff. Like, because it's like, if we can get really ahead on this, like say we got to 3 months ahead, like that's just so freeing. We can actually do a lot more things that we want to do, like little like spontaneous things or like things that we're curious about.
Which will ultimately promote growth and make this product better in the sense of like,
this is the core.
I don't know, if an opportunity comes up where we could go away for a week somewhere with someone doing something awesome. Whereas if we didn't have that backlog, then we couldn't do that.
Or we'd be
Whereas we do that and then we come back and it's like, oh, we have this newfound insight. And so yeah, I think definitely it's like the idea is to try and build up a backlog. But
do you guys have like an ultimate goal with, what was sort of like the vision you came into when you wanted to create this?
So it was more, Kyle came to me last year, September, August.
June,
July, August-ish. He came to me and basically just said, because we've known each other for 8 years now, and he's like, we just have too good of a relationship to not do something.
Like it just, dude, I had this like just period of time where I was uncomfortable with the fact that we had such a good relationship and like nothing was coming of it in terms of like, not impacting others, but making some sort of impact that's bigger than us. Does that make sense? So not as a selfish, like we're making an impact, not like that, as in like, using our relationship as a separate entity to like do some good, if that makes sense. Because I was like, not many people have relationships like the one we have. And it's very, very rare. So it's like, but so much good can come out of it. And I was just so uncomfortable for so long with the idea of that, like nothing coming of that. So, and we talked about it before, like sort of like, we've always talked about like one day, like we'll do something together, like whatever it is, it'll like bring itself like into fruition. And one day I was like, fuck, like, I reckon we just, like, I just asked it, like we should do, well, with the vision wasn't actually a pod. It was just
We need
the
to
relationship,
do something.
together. So like I came to him, I was like, dude, like, because it was coming to a crossroads of like I'm studying like a Bachelor of Economics. Like I don't want a job from it at all. Like I've just a different perspective on it. Just like I love learning about it and I find it really interesting, but like I don't really want to work, like you were saying, that sort of corporate life. That doesn't really interest me. And like I wanted to build something for myself. So I sort of came to Josh, and Josh was finishing up his apprenticeship as a mechanic, and I knew he didn't want to be a mechanic. It was just like he left school because it was something practical he could learn. And then so it was like sort of a crossroads for both of us. So I just came to him, I was like, dude, like, what do you think? Like, let's do something together. And he was like on board, and we just spent like this night, like just fucking brainstorming,
what
dude.
Can we do?
Like for like 6-7 hours, like just Warrwood Square car park.
That's sick.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we just
and we
landed
just
on
sat there.
pod because we both love talking. We're very curious people. Also, it was just super like cost effective. We could start. Like I like the idea of just doing first. Like it's great to brainstorm. It's great to have ideas, but unless you're actually putting the wheels in motion, nothing's ever going to happen. So like you can easily, my mate says, it's easy to steer a bike once you have momentum versus when you're not moving. So I like the idea of just getting things going, and then if we ended up hating this, we
Veer
Just
off into something else.
do something else. It was the fact of like, let's start. You know what I mean? So, and we both align with that in terms of like, we just need to just start something. And yeah, like it just kind of lined up like that. And we both just I love talking. That's sure. I don't shut up. So like that, and just we're so curious. Like we'll actually, I honestly would talk to anyone. You know what I mean? Like there's something you can,
has a story.
and some sort of perspective you can take from, right? And then,
to answer the question in terms of the goal, it's like it does change all the time, but I guess the focus and ideally is to monetize it and be able to like make money from this, and opportunity seek, I think as well, is a really important thing. But above all is like keep it genuine to us, keep learning, keep it curious, and just try and be like purposeful and impactful with it. And do it for the right reasons, which is, I guess, keeping it genuine to us. But
Definitely.
but on a practical sense, it'd be great to make money.
Definitely.
Because then I think the idea of like monetizing it means that you have more time to do shit that's more impactful.
More time, more opportunity.
I think like coming back to the core of like my idea about our relationship is just like that can be so productive. We can do so much good shit with it. So like if we're just being as genuine as possible, we're going to get to a point where this is monetized, and then we're still raw in our relationship. We can use that to impact somehow.
The possibilities are endless, and as your reach improves, your message will also reach further people, and this information that you're getting, or this perspective that you are getting, will reach further audiences as well, which will in turn better people's lives as well, which is the awesome part of it.
100%.
That's awesome, man. Like, good on you guys. That's awesome. How's like the setup? Just, I mean, like, was this all there before, like the phone stuff, or has that been built up, mics?
We had a desk mic initially.
Yeah, nice.
And we weren't recording it with cameras. We were just doing audio. And one of my mates does YouTube vlogging, like travel vlogs, and he was just instantly like, you got to film, got to put it on TikTok. Like, you have to.
Yes.
And then
we knew that too.
We knew, but we just weren't doing it. We weren't actioning it for a while. And then we just started like filming with our phones. I think we were caught in the loop a bit of like, we have to get this all right before we do things. He's like, dude, like just use your phone. Like use your phone. It's perfect. It works. It's easy.
Again,
it's also
for doing.
It's also not intimidating. Like everyone is familiar with the phone, but people that have never done this, if you had like a massive camera here, they get on. They're all like,
like if a DSLR was sitting here looking
it's
right
just
at
like,
you,
like it's a bit more.
it's quite intimidating. So it's just getting rolling. And then we had a guy on, Matt Shepard. He's like a videographer as well, and I was like doing a bit of work on his car, and I didn't want any money for it. And he was listening to the pods, and he's like, the audio's so shit, like you have to fix it. And he said like get some lapels and they'll be like much better, and instead of money for the car he bought us lapels. So then that's where these mics came from. Which
So
is
it's
very
just
generous.
evolving over time.
Yeah, sweet.
That's how it works.
And we're
and it's not-
happy, like,
We're like, we have no time limit. Like, and I think that's very liberating. Like to just be like, I don't care how long this takes. It's just like, I just want to keep improving. And if we keep improving, the rest will figure itself out.
and there is that obsession with it, I would say. It's like, I love this so much.
Yeah.
So much fun. I actually love talking to people. And even this morning, like we went into the city last night, had the Philly cheesesteaks and went to Pancakes on the Rocks, just like too much sugar. Woke up like not feeling great, my body hating me. But I was like, I love the idea of coming here and having a great conversation. And as we've been speaking, I feel so good now. Like,
Dude, we were driving here and I was saying the weirdest shit. Like I was just like, why am I speaking aloud? And I was like, what kind of comment is that? I was like, what the fuck? Like I'm so tired. It's just like, but like getting here and just like now, like having a conversation, just like Josh said, you just feel so much better. Like it's just so good to just be, and you said as well, like having these sorts of chats. It's just so great. Everyone has a different look at on everything. So
how's it been moving here in terms of like making friends and creating a life here?
Like a lifestyle here, it's very, very different to where I'm usually from. As in, like the West is a lot more chaotic. It's very head clearing here, I feel.
Yeah.
I don't have any mates here. All my mates are sort of in the West. My girlfriend lives in Redfern as well. She just comes over sometimes. But I enjoy the lifestyle here just because of the access to the water. There's a lot more communities and activities geared around wellness here, which I find, like ice bath groups, meditation groups. You'll never find that in Parramatta. Like, like you'll never find that kind of stuff there. And I guess it's a bit more rat racy.
Yeah.
And I guess the things people value there maybe are a little bit different, whereas I really do value like health, fitness, wellness, all that kind of stuff. And I guess, I mean, I'm into music as well, so I like to make music as well. I guess if what kind of music? So I play the saxophone and I just DJ a little bit. Can play a little bit like piano and stuff, but like some of my mates play as well, so we just jam sometimes. Not like a proper artist, but that's kind of like my outlet. If I didn't have access to exercise, that's like sort of my way of expressing myself. Otherwise, I feel like it's important to have these sort of outlets outside of your full-time job. Otherwise, you form your identity based off sort of one thing, and you need, as human beings, we're just trying to articulate ourselves.
And your performance actually lacks.
Yes, definitely.
Because it's just, like you said, your identity is based around that. So your performance like hinders, but when you're improving yourself outside of work, it then just creates that healthy balance and everything rises.
No, definitely. That's the thing. That's I 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
I guess moving out here, in terms of a lot of my mates who do music live in the inner west, if I wanted to pursue, I guess, music more and collaborate with people, I could do that. But I guess I like being out here because my mind state is so much better. So it kind of allows me to create or have room to be active, but also explore this creative side as well, which is cool. I'm thoroughly enjoying it. It feels like on holiday all the time.
Did you like, was that your intention in waiting out here? Like, was it because of that?
For
like just for wellness and stuff
and
like
things.
that?
Yes. Well, I've always just loved the water. I like picked up scuba diving a couple of years ago, so I just fell in love with sort of nature. Started surfing a little bit, but I just found I was spending all my weekends trying to travel here. And sometimes when it's shit surf, like it's travel like an hour and a half. I'm like, jam, like what do I do? Like it's crazy. So I think, and I feel like I'm someone who has a lot of sort of goals. I don't like to sort of settle. I think I want a lot out of life. It can sound selfish, but I want a lot of things. I have a lot of different goals, like creative, financial, fitness, all those things. So I want to be a bit more time effective. So I thought just moving out here, I can still do music. I can still work as a physio, and I can surf and stuff. That's the thing. So why not in my youth? Like just live out here for a little bit, and it's been awesome. And I'm meeting, like, I would have never done this probably in the West, I don't know. But like just meeting people in the sauna, having a conversation. I tell my mates about it all the time. Like I just met this dude in the sauna, we had this crazy conversation.
Yeah, it's
now
great.
we're on a podcast now.
Yeah, no,
like,
it's so sick. And it's also like what comes from here as well. Like we're going to go surfing together, what comes from that. And I love that. That is why, honestly, for me, new opportunities, new experiences excite me so much. And I think I'm very fortunate in that sense because it scares so many people. But it just excites me so much. I'm like,
because there's always that little like, like everyone has that initial fear towards all those, like to having something new come about. But I think the more you practice taking those opportunities, the easier it gets. And like nowadays, something new comes up, or I may not even desire to do it, or may just like not want to do it, but I'll still be happy to do it just because I'm like, it's new. And I'm more married to the idea that it's new and I want to do something new and
novelty.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Like I like that. I'm more attached to that than I am attached to the actual activity that it is.
Yes.
Because I might not even want to do it, but it's just like, well, it's new, so I'm going to take something out of it.
No,
So I'm happy with
definitely.
it.
And it can lead to somewhere else. You never know. That's the thing. Yeah,
and
definitely.
it could be totally left field as well.
Yes, yes.
And which speaks to getting out of your comfort zone, because our comfort zones are so predictable. They're a familiar place. That's why they're comfortable. But outside of that is just the unknown. And that's why it's so exciting. And it's ultimately going to lead to growth, which is like growth is just a great thing.
Yeah.
We all seek it and we live it every day. We're always growing every day.
Yeah. So what's your like sort of goals at the moment in terms of like, what are you striving towards? Like you've got the like you talking about the marathon. Do you have any like in terms of like professional career, like where are you at the moment in terms of that? Because we sort of touched on it at the start, but I can be interested to see like where you sort of looking to go. Yeah.
I kind of want to get into the chronic pain field with physiotherapy.
Yeah.
It's a very challenging field because pain is such a complex concept. It's not as straightforward as anyone thinks it. It's not just physical. Like in uni, we learn it's a biological, but also a psychological and a social, like a social component to it as well.
Right.
And interesting, I'll tell you a story about pain. So the reason why pain is so complex because it's actually produced by the brain, not the body. So an example is we learned this case study in uni where this construction worker jumps off a ledge and he lands on a nail. So a nail goes through his boot and his foot. So this guy is screaming in pain like anyone who had a 15 centimeter nail go through his foot would have. He went to ED, they put him under anesthetic and they took the boot they took the nail out. When they removed the boots, they couldn't find any puncture wounds or any blood. What had actually happened was the nail had gone in between his toes. So there's no actual tissue damage or puncture wound, but his perception was that he got punctured by a nail, so he felt the pain of that nail.
Wait, holy shit. Wait, so you're saying it didn't even puncture anything?
As in, there was no physical tissue damage, but his perception was
Because
that
he saw a nail go
because
through
that
his
was
boot.
the information his brain was getting that he had been punctured by.
So he's going to feel that
Yeah.
pain.
So pretty much what your pain is, it's a threat detection mechanism given by your brain. So that's why I say when you're running from a tiger or and you scratch your leg on a branch or something, your brain perceives a threat as a tiger, so you don't feel the pain. Or say you roll your ankle while crossing the road, but there's a bus coming towards you. Your brain would be like, if you sent that pain signal, you would fall down and then you would get hit by that bus.
I can honestly relate to that. I literally 3 weeks ago or something, I was running to make the ferry in the city, and as I was running to go across the road, I saw a car coming up. I was so tired, so I was just staring at the car, trying to figure out what lane it was in, and I had 3 minutes to make the ferry. And then as I looked back, my foot was half on the gutter, half off the gutter, and I just rolled straight over, phone in hand, because I was looking at the ferry time, through my phone, face hits the deck. And instantly it was just I knew there was a car flying up this main road, and my instant thing was scramble for my phone, which was so dumb, but then scramble back. And then when I am in the gutter and looked up and saw that I was fine, then I was oh, my ankle. But then I just didn't even comprehend pain in my ankle. It was there's a car possibly coming to hit me. I wasn't sure what lane it was in. But yeah, that's
insane
nuts.
how relatable that is. Yeah, that's crazy. Well, that's the thing. That's why pain is so complex, as in it's you get a stimulus to your your physical body. There's these sensors called nociceptors in your brain, in your body, that pretty much send that signal to your brain, and your brain kind of perceives it as a threat or not a threat, and then it sends that signal back and produces pain. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's why, so sometimes things aren't we can get touch all the time, all these, pretty much when I press something, that signal is getting sent to my brain, but your brain is saying, oh, okay, that's not a threatening stimulus, so it doesn't send pain back, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's very fascinating, but it also makes it super complex because there becomes people with chronic pain develop a mismatch between that
Yeah, okay.
whole pain system. That's why, have you heard of phantom limb pain?
Yeah.
Yeah, people don't have any limbs, but there's that mismatch between there. So the brain still thinks there's a limb under threat there.
No way.
So they don't have a leg, but they're feeling pain in that leg,
Wow.
which is interesting.
Yeah.
What the?
'Cause
What does
that's-
that even feel like? Like that would be so strange.
But then from like your point of view in terms of the physio, it's like, well, like that has to just be like a psychological thing, right? To
A lot of it's psychological and like social wise, like understanding their psychological pressures, social pressures more than the physical. And that's why a lot of chronic pain is to do with holistic healthcare. I was speaking to like a hand therapist I was going to. She used to work in a chronic pain clinic, and they she pretty much said there was no like massage or anything. That a lot of it's like mindfulness practice, meditation, breath work, a lot of that kind of stuff, which I kind of resonate with because it's a very holistic approach of care. Like even in my clinic, I have to be a therapist a lot of the time. A lot of these people are just venting their problems to me as well, and a lot of the times I've gotten outcomes of patients without even like physically doing anything. It's just educating them or reassuring them or telling them it's okay.
almost just being an ear for
And hear them,
like,
literally.
shit.
Like I'm literally just a therapist a lot of the time as well.
Have you ever looked into like maybe expanding your knowledge in that aspect just because of that?
Oh, definitely. I am super interested in psychiatry. I would love to learn more. I'm reading a book by the psychiatrist actually right now. I think I was telling you about it. I'll talk about that later. It's actually fucking fascinating. But yeah, it's there's a lot more I would love to learn, especially about chronic pain. And a lot of it is, I mean, I understand pain science and things. There's a lot more I could understand, but a lot of it is hitting home to that patient and improving my communication skills, because I have all this knowledge, but this person here has no idea what any of that is. And a lot of it's about developing sort of analogies like that athlete to worker incident to try hit home to them. Because with the patient therapist sort of relationship, this person doesn't know me at all. Like you guys, at least, I guess you came to me and you had an interest in sort of my perspective already. So you're a bit more receptive to what I'm saying, but this person has no idea who I am.
And they're just there to get it fixed. Like they're not.
They're there to get fixed, and they've had a whole lifetime of perspectives. They've probably seen like 15 other therapists maybe, or 5 other therapists, or 10 people have told them other perspectives. So they have all these other beliefs, systems.
Ideas.
Yes, that's the thing. And you have to, I guess in a 30 to 45 minute session, become aware of what their belief system is, what their problem is, what they want out of the treatment, and then take all those things and alter their perspective or change their perspective and get them on board as well. So
What
it's
a great challenge, like problem solving.
It's pretty much problem
constantly.
solving. Yeah.
Fun as. Like, I bet
It's
you love
very
that.
stimulating. It's awesome. It can be very challenging as well, but it's it keeps my brain wired, and you gain heaps of perspective. Like you meet all these different walks of life, like pregnant ladies, tradies, athletes, kids. Yeah, it's super interesting. But going back to your question, that's kind of where I want to get into chronic pain. A goal of mine would be to I have a couple of mates in physio as well, but like to sort of open a clinic that is sort of catered towards a very holistic approach of care. So a clinic that had like a sauna in it, like a cold therapy treatment, like a gym. So people kind of associate this place with sort of a lifestyle approach. So they actually, maybe they're coming in for knee pain and things, but they're also going to the sauna.
Yeah.
They're doing cold therapy. They just feel better, and like psychologically, emotionally, everything just feels better.
Box.
Rather than being a specialist, which is the reverse of how like any sort of like physical therapy, anything like that works. You go to like, oh, I have a chiro, I have a physio, I have XXX, like I have all these different things where you want it to be just one place.
Yes,
Cool. It's cool that you're hitting that, like you're really trying to have the like psychological impact with that wellness and the holistic approach, which is ultimately, like, when you speak about pain, is gonna like reduce,
uplift everything. Yeah, definitely. Like the exercise classes we run exercise classes. People are coming in for like chronic shoulder issues and stuff, but we're getting them to do like squats. We're getting them to do like full body movements to get their whole body feeling better. Because if they systemically feel better, their shoulder is just going to naturally sort of feel better. Like their brain feels better. Everything. I guess it's just the holistic approach, treating everything as a whole rather than just thinking about the physical. And it's interesting because it's a battle with how healthcare has been the whole time. Everyone's been very sort of diagnosis focused, structure focused. Like we know that pain is not always linked to structure, but we have GPs and things who send people for scans, and they say they have like a disc bulge in their back, but that disc bulge has probably, you could probably scan us and we might have disc bulges, but we don't have any back pain either. So there's not always that correlation there. But
It's not black and white.
it's not black and white, that's the thing. But it's tough because I have this education. I guess a lot of therapists do, but a lot of therapists don't as well. And it's hard to, I guess, merge all that together when people have been hearing something from someone else for so long, and then
No, 100%.
Like I was trying to get that before, it's like we're taught to specialize. That's how our world works. It's like specialize in something else and then pay someone else to give you the rest. So, and yeah, that is very interesting. Like for you to want to take on that more holistic. What's the journey to get to that point? Like, what does that look like for you? Do you think?
I think I'll have to do quite a bit more understanding in sort of chronic pain, those kind of things. Probably just a bit more further study in that. Maybe even shadow in a chronic pain clinic, because there's like actual methods people use. There's like things called like mirror therapy, visualization. Mirror therapy is actually really cool. It's pretty much like you're playing tricks on your brain. So say you have this is your painful hand. So you probably have seen.
You were explaining this to me maybe in the sauna.
I probably could have been. Maybe I may have been doing it. There's like there's like a mirror here, right? And then you put your injured hand there, and you put your actual hand here, so you're seeing your reflection of your actual hand, your non-injured hand, but it looks like where your injured hand is. That makes sense. Yeah. And then you start to do movements with that, or the therapist starts to put like a ruler or put sensations there. So you start to associate this hand with the sensations of this hand and moving with that, and you can get like just rewiring of these neural connections to show that this hand shouldn't be painful and things like that. A lot more complex than that, and a lot more complex mechanisms, but that's the kind of therapy that you're
trying to trick
doing
your brain
to do things, which is insane.
It's so cool.
It's pretty insane.
Cool.
Yeah.
It's crazy how complex that is.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. The mind is just insane. And that's why it'd be cool, like I know it's a bit later down the line as well, but even including like psychedelic therapy and things like that. There's just so many avenues in healthcare we can take, and I'm, I guess, a big proponent of. I've had good benefits from psychedelic therapy, and I know other people have as well. And I think there's just limitless sort of ways we can put together like a place that caters to all these facets of people's healthcare. Definitely. That's what I mean. So yeah, it's
such an interesting topic with the psychedelics. Like, it can be so beneficial, but it's like coming back to people's minds being anchored to like certain thoughts and beliefs. Most people for so long, and like this is what everything pushes in school and stuff, is like how bad they are, and they just like associate them with like drugs like cocaine, meth, like all of this stuff. But so they're just anchored to that, and they go into it thinking that it's this really dangerous bad thing, and like ultimately that they're gonna probably have that outcome because that is their intention going into it. But if you can alter that in a way, then they could get such good benefits from it.
No, definitely. But also, obviously, a lot of research has to be done because it is a drug at the end of the day, and you have to administer it properly with a therapist and things like that.
The idea of controlling that is just so foreign because it really is such a hard thing to control. Like it's kind of just you're on this roller coaster and you just got to strap on and ride it.
Definitely, man. It's interesting. They say like psychedelics, pretty much a guy described it to me because it's really effective in treatment like depression, OCD, a lot of those those disorders that kind of have very repetitive fixed patterns of thought. Like depression is kind of like you're ruminating a certain thought pattern that, because you're continuously lingering on that, it kind of weighs in on your life and everything becomes sort of like grayed down and you become fixed onto that sort of that pattern of thought. There's probably more complex mechanisms that happen, but he talks, Michael Pollan actually says that when you take psychedelics, it's like picture like a snowy field, and someone who's in depression or anxiety or OCD, they have gone through one pattern of thought so many times, it's like one trail of the snow. And that's just the path of least resistance. They just go there. But once you take psychedelics, it's like you're smoothing over that snowy field, and you can just go, and you can just go whatever pattern thought, which is interesting.
For sure. And it's so cool because it almost like puts you back in control.
Definitely.
It's like you can kind of carve your own path now. Where do you want to go?
Yeah, no, that's the whole point of it. It pretty much inhibits, this is part of your brain called, sorry if I'm getting super scientific, but it's more like
just like we were saying before, it's great because I don't know this, so
No,
that's what I want. Yeah.
I mean, tell me if I'm losing you guys or anything like that,
No,
but it's more there's like something called your prefrontal cortex, which is kind of like your habitual thinking. So like pretty much when we're going around daily life, we know that's a tree, we know that's grass. So when we walk past it, my brain has already processed that before, and we know that's a tree. So we don't like look at that tree every time like, oh my God, that's a tree, if that makes sense. It's already made that like habitual, like that calculated, what's it called, thought process that knows it's a tree. But that's the prefrontal cortex doing all of that. Psychedelics pretty much inhibits that activity of that brain. So that's why when you're looking at things, you probably have experienced it as well, you're looking at things like you're looking at for the first time, like you're a kid almost. Like you're
just figuring it out.
Like figuring out everything for the first time. And that's why everything feels so novel and insane at the time.
You almost you go into it a bit more, I find, like where, as you said, like we just see a tree and clock it for a tree and don't even think about it. On psychedelics, at least in my experiences, you see so much more within the tree. Because you're seeing it for the first time, you're looking the whole tree itself and then the individual piece of bark and the grains, and like you really do like hone in, and then coming out of that, you can now see that in all trees. I'm like, oh, there's so much more than just the tree. So it is kind of cool that way.
Yeah, that's the thing. Are you guys in a rush to go, by the way?
No,
You guys, no, you got
maybe.
time? No, I have no time either. Okay, cool. That's okay.
You mentioning this book that you wanted to talk about. What was the book?
It's called Projections. So it's written by the psychiatrist called Carl Deister. He's actually on the Human Lab podcast, so that's why I found him. He pretty much talks about how in psychiatry, compared to like other forms of medicine, how, say, it's very subjective, like in assessment and treatment. So say someone who's got like a heart issue, we can do like a blood test to quantify kind of what's going on. But someone who's undergoing depression, anxiety, we're relying on their words to articulate what the inner state is happening, or just questionnaires. There's no tests I can say like you're this level of depressed or you're and the term depression is you're depressed maybe different to my depressed. It's all just depending on the articulation. There's a scale, or the word depression itself, what is it? Like it's just so subjective, if that makes sense.
And just feelings are as well.
Feelings, yes.
Like
How do you quantify it?
Because you can never know how I feel. All I can do is try to explain it, but it's going to get lost in my explanation, lost in your interpretation.
That's the thing. I mean, me, I guess, mentally healthy person even struggles to articulate how I'm feeling sometimes. So someone who's not, I guess, in ill mind or who's going through a mental disorder, how are they going to articulate how they're feeling?
Also, if you want any water at any time, there's water here.
Oh, good. I got water as well. Cheers, bro. Cheers.
Yeah, no, 100%. And it's crazy how clouded they get. Like my sister has a bulimia, like an eating disorder. And she went, when she was like her worst phase, obviously with eating disorders. And again, like this is like just coming back to having people on the podcast talking about things that we have no idea about. It's so cool because you get educated. But eating disorders, which I didn't know, which makes sense, have the highest mortality rate out of any mental illness.
Oh, wow.
Affecting like your physiology like a lot more than like just mental stuff.
Makes sense because it's the
You're actually deprived.
pairing of like physical damage and mental damage. Like it's both.
Because you're really like messing up your digestive system and your whole body, plus like your mind is also
You're causing that much physical harm. Wow.
And when she was like in her kind of like peak stage of like at her worst, she actually told me that she was making herself sick and that she had it. And we were sitting on this gutter in the Central Coast at like my family friend's house, and she told me, and it was just so out of the blue, and I didn't know what to do, and I didn't say anything. Like I was just
you weren't aware of it at all?
No, no idea. And I was like, oh my goodness, what? And like the way she said it was so casual. And then I remember after that, nothing happened. Like I didn't tell mom and dad. I didn't even think about it. I honestly kind of forgot about it. But and then when she eventually came and like told mom and dad and then told me, I was like, yeah, like you actually told me this like last year. And she had no recollection of doing that. And she said that the past like year of her life, she doesn't really remember because she was just in such a clouded mindset that she couldn't even like consciously remember like living in that sense. And it's like, there's that. And then you can imagine how it is for people with other mental illnesses like depression and stuff. And like us in clear, mentally healthy minds, like might judge their behaviors and their actions because we're like, what are they doing? Like, why are they being like this? But
that's judging from a clear
yeah,
state.
exactly. It's like, imagine being
Physical,
cloudy. Like, it's
spiritual,
almost like
mental.
judging a car. Like, if the windscreen was super fogged and they're driving all over the road, but your windscreen's fine, you're like, what the hell is this guy doing? It's like, well, dude, he can't
Good
see.
analogy. Yeah, definitely. And it's just wild how we know this is like a car. We have all these grounded pillars of what's real, but their reality is just completely different to what we perceive as real. And that's the fascinating part about this, how the brain, even with just pain and stuff, like how the brain is able to warp our realities to have just completely different realities, even though we objectively might be experiencing the same thing. It's just subjectively just so different.
And the same with psychedelics. Like, when you're consuming something that is ultimately like being digested and it's affecting your brain in certain ways that I'm unaware of, but again, like, you've just consumed something and then your state of reality is so altered in a way that you could never imagine.
But if you're like an outsider of, say, someone who is on the psychedelics and someone who's not, and they're both looking at a tree, as an outsider, you're looking at them, they're experiencing the same thing, but you're just totally not. Yeah, that's crazy. That's insane. Yeah.
Well, going back to what this guy was, but pretty much that's a premise of what he was saying. He was saying the reason for he's developed a technology based on this because it's such a subjective field. This is
Trying to make it more objective.
I guess so, yes. And he's developed this technology called optogenetics. Pretty much they've discovered there's this like light sensitive algae. So pretty much when you shine light on this algae, it's like a fluorescent algae, it pretty much opens up these pores so pretty much when you shine light on this algae, it moves. When you shine light on this algae, it opens up a pore which lets out like sodium and potassium ions, and it kind of moves. So he likens that to what's happening in the nervous system, because the language of the nervous system is electricity. When neurons are firing messages to other neurons, it's pretty much sending sodium potassium ions across like a membrane, across a synapse towards other neurons. It's like pretty much like electrical electrical impulses going through your brain. So what they're actually doing is infiltrating this light sensitive algae, fluorescent algae, into people's brains via like a benign virus, and putting in certain regions of the brain. This is a very basic example. Benign means like a non-threatening, like a malignant is like a benign cancer, like a tumor, something like that. So like just a virus that's non-threatening, pretty much. That's the way they infiltrate it. This is a very basic explanation of this very complex concept, by the way. It's a lot more going on, obviously. Pretty much they put it in to say someone undergoing anxiety, the fear center of the brain is like the amygdala, so generally activity there would be a bit more heightened. So pretty much what he's doing is he's putting this light sensitive algae in there, and then when people are sort of undergoing complex human emotions like anxiety or things, they can see what neural areas are actually being fired because this light sensitive algae will trigger, and they can actually incite or inhibit activities. To say someone is undergoing anxiety, they're able to shine this light onto, say, an area of the amygdala to either excite the activity or inhibit activity of what's happening there. So in real time,
so you can almost manipulate it.
Yeah, it's almost like manipulating reality, which is
that is insane.
Pretty insane.
Because like what you're speaking on is just the subjective reality that someone's experiencing, and someone's controlling
what's actually happening. Or they can, He says this is just a beginning, but he doesn't want this to be the treatment intervention. He wants it to be a bit more pharmacological, that's less invasive. But he's saying this is just this uses a diagnostic treatment, but can also be treatment-wise. But it's just a more objective way to see what's actually happening in the brain during all these complex human emotions. Because right now we just have words rather than what's
language. It's an interpretation.
Insane. Have you like looked into head traumas or anything at all? Because
TBIs and things like that, or
what is TBIs?
Traumatic brain injury.
But just the thought of how complex like the brain is in itself, but then you throw in like, I don't know, someone has a head trauma and a part of the brain now isn't working. How does that affect their reality? And
Oh, definitely. It's like CTE, like concussion, like all these NFL players that get like even like UFC players, UFC fighters and things like that, they have so many issues from this repetitive concussion. Yeah, I've never actually dealt with people like that. That would probably be in like the neurological ward and things like that. But there's like reports of people having like decreased inhibition, becoming like really aggressive later in their life, just because certain parts of their brain aren't
Just
working, or like aren't as inhibited and things like that. Yeah, it's wild.
Crazy.
It's
Human body is so interesting.
super
Yeah,
interesting.
especially
Too, it's like we just know fuck all, hey.
Yeah, it's
It's
just
nothing.
such a mystery. That's why I guess this guy is kind of trying to tap into it a little bit. It's a very interesting book. I'd highly recommend it. I'll give you guys a link.
We'd
I'll
be
get
able
it
to-
to
like,
kids.
we'd be able to
Is it
read
digestible for
Like for
uneducated
The layman?
swines like
Labor-
us?
Oh, it's not like it's not like super. It's pretty. It takes a while. Even for me, it's taking me a bit of time to read.
Yeah.
It's not like super scientific.
Okay.
It's
yeah.
quite philosophical, and he's a beautiful
It's just
writer.
conceptual.
It's
Yeah.
very conceptual. Yeah, he kind of pretty much is structured. He talks about, it's like 6 chapters of 6 different psychiatric disorders, and he talks about the patient's experience, but then he goes into philosophical concept of how something like this could have even originated in a human being, like
okay.
from an evolutionary perspective. Like, why is this person going through like a psychosis? How could
Yeah.
what evolutionary purpose does psychosis even have
Yeah,
in
yeah,
human
interesting.
beings?
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
It's cool because he's trying to backtrack it to then actually help it.
But,
Like,
Yes.
just to gain more understanding.
Yes, literally. He's saying like through the ill mind, you're actually able to understand when something's broken, you're able to understand how that thing actually works.
No,
If
100%.
that makes sense.
Because
Yeah.
it also encourages you to look in a bit more. I think when things aren't working, like, again, just being a mechanic, like when an engine's working fine, you're not looking at it at all because it's fine. You don't need to do anything to it. But when something's broken, you pull it apart and then you're looking at it. Oh, okay, like I know what's broken. This moves.
And then
this
you
that
see
works
what it
this.
actually did.
You see what it actually does and what it did, and you're like, oh, could we improve it? Could we manipulate it?
Yeah.
And yeah, I think things breaking are great for understanding and just furthering our education. It's so fascinating.
No, definitely, man. It's a cool concept. Do you feel like, was this podcast, you said it was a mental health podcast, or it wasn't a mental, it was just a podcast about
no,
just
the documentary is for mental health.
documentary.
But this podcast is like, because one of my friends, he has a podcast. He's like 3-4 years ahead of us in terms of like he started. One thing he said to me from the beginning was like, you have to find your niche. He's like don't just say you want to help people, because every podcast helps people.
Yeah.
And he's like, if you want to be successful, you have to find a niche and something that you can do. And I think for us, it's like vulnerability. And yes, we're just curious people and we want to speak to everyone. But I think the underlying thing I'm getting is when I talk to people, I want to find out who they actually are. And I don't want them to just come on and feel this pressure to uphold a front, or like, I don't want you to come on as a physio and feel that you need to talk to us as a physio. Like, I actually want to know who you are.
We're asking questions about certain things, but like I don't care that like what you do and you're like whatever. I care about how you've got there. Do you know what I mean?
definitely
that's
like your journey there. That's cool.
And
That's cool.
we actually, what was cool, we had our first test in terms of, were we going to corrupt ourselves for like a potentially good podcast, where someone came on, we recorded an episode, and we sent it to them to listen back to get their approval, because they have quite a big online presence. And then they basically, which is fair enough, like we respect them, they just said like, oh, I can't let this go to air because I feel that it doesn't portray like my brand that I've built in a manner. And it's like, and they said like, I'm happy to come back and we can do another one with like a bit more of my professional walls up. And we were discussing it, and we're like, we actually don't think we want to do that, because like that just kind of goes against what we want to do, which is get people to be themselves and be honest.
it
and
doesn't
be
feel as
vulnerable.
organic or genuine. Yeah,
100%,
definitely.
so-
Yeah. That's just cool, because this is just a conversation. Like, I feel super relaxed. I guess the initial parts, I've never been on a podcast, so you could probably even tell like you maybe stutter a bit, or your breathing's a little bit different, but that's just sort of anything. It's like public speaking, and then when you get sort of comfortable into it, you guys make it.
So we try to make it, just as like open as possible. And I feel like every move we'll make forward is to make people feel comfortable enough that they can be vulnerable.
Yeah, definitely.
In regards to whether that be just like having a guest on, or just like hiring someone eventually like to work for us. It's like everything we do will just be about vulnerability. We just know that like it will be at the core of everything. So we talk about often like when we hire someone for the first time, like how we're going to interview them. And it's like, we're going to live with them for a week. or something. Like I don't want to know how you perform in an interview for like an hour and a half.
Yes.
I don't care. Like I literally could not care less. It's like I want to see what you do day to day. Like what are your good habits? What are your bad habits? Because everyone has bad habits. So I just want to see what yours are. Like it's not about being perfect. It's about just being like, are you vulnerable? Could you be vulnerable? Like if I asked you like we want to live with you for a week, like is that cool? And like that person's like, you know, oh shit, like shocked by that. It's like they're probably not the right person for us. You know what I mean? Like so that sort of stuff. Like in whatever decision we make going on with this, it's like want it to be as
open and just genuine. I think the easiest way, at least I find, to get anyone to be vulnerable is just be vulnerable yourself first. Like lead by example and create that safe space, because the thing around vulnerability is there's just so much shame and fear associated with it, and like men just perceive it as such a weakness, but it really is like so much courage to be able to be able to be vulnerable. And when you can show that, then they can see that, and then they feel comfortable to do that. And it's really like just the story of how it goes.
And you reap so many sort of rewards and benefits from it. Insane.
And so many indirect things, which is so cool as well. So many indirect benefits, like you do something directly to Kyle, but then that impacts somebody else, and that started from you, and it's such a beautiful thing.
And shit that you might not even see. Like eventually, hopefully, like we get to the point with this that it becomes that. It's like shit that we don't hear about it.
And we never hear about, but it's just drastically impacted somebody's life. And that's such a cool thought, knowing it could happen, but I'll never know that it's happened. I love that so much. Yeah. Have you got any more travel plans, or?
I just came back from Fiji actually, like 2 weeks ago. Fiji was dope. I did like some diving, like a shark dive there. It was fucking sick.
In a cage or free?
No, free dive.
Free dive.
As in, it was like a scuba. Yeah, it was like, it's not even just chill sharks. It's like bull sharks.
Oh my goodness.
Lemon sharks. Bro, it's like 15, 20.
Hold on, have you done cage diving before?
I've never done. This is the first thing I've done. I just looked it up. That's what everyone was saying. I felt vulnerable. I felt fucking vulnerable. Pretty fucking vulnerable.
Diving with bull sharks.
Yeah, it's pretty insane. So pretty much it's like a shark marine reserve. So the diving company is the only company allowed there. You'll pretty much dive down to like 20, 30 meters. You're on like a coral wall. There's like this whole sort of arena there. I got it on my phone actually, if you want to see a video. But like,
oh, dude.
And they're feeding the sharks. Bro, it's like, oh yeah, actually,
Are you signing a waiver on this?
Yeah,
like you may not survive after, but there's like a fuckload of sharks.
Holy shit.
Wow.
It's a pretty shit video, but that's...
No, that's dude, the fact that like you were holding that GoPro and you means you were that close to the sharks.
Well, there's a fuckload. Like this is like a time lapse, but there's heaps, man. Oh, sorry.
Holy shit.
Okay, talk us through the process of your feelings, because I know, again, I don't know the science on this, but I'm pretty sure like a lot of like sharks and stuff, they can really sense fear and like the vibrations and all of that stuff. So what is you suit it up, you jump in the water, like talk us through your emotions and everything that's playing out in your mind.
Well, like the dive master, before I dived in, he was like, it was nice knowing you. And I was like,
no way.
He was joking. He was like, just kidding. And I dived in.
Until he's not.
Super covered.
Until someone dies.
Yeah, hard. I mean, they've done it for 15 years and no one's been bitten by a shark. They walked us through all these steps beforehand. I was nervous a little bit, but I also was kind of like,
Fuck it.
pretty like relaxed as well. Yeah, like these guys have been doing it for so long. I saw the dive masters and like they all seem relaxed. They've been doing this for a while. Like if I just go in with that confidence, I noticed that if you do go in with that confidence, like I have a mate, sorry to sidetrack, but I have a mate who's got a really sort of aggressive dog that's bit like a few of my other mates. And I went and I didn't really interact with this dog, but I went and interacted with this dog, but I didn't go in with that fear.
He's gonna bite me.
Yeah, I just went in and went to pat him like I was happy to see that dog. And I think the dog sensed that confidence and was super relaxed with me, even though I haven't seen it in like a year and a half. And I don't know if that translates to this as well. But yeah, it's very interesting because the sharks, I don't know if it's like a dominant sort of thing or like an assertiveness, but as the sharks are coming, some of the sharks are pretty curious and they come and they're like, one of the sharks like tails like slapped my face. It was like, they come really close. Like they have like septums where they kind of like just guide the shark away, or like you probably see spearfishers, like if sharks are coming towards them, they just push them away, or like they poke them away. I think it's just making the shark aware that I'm not your food. Like kind of pushing them away, which sounds like fucked up because these sharks can literally fuck you up.
Yeah,
like
tear you.
your part, like
yeah, dude, you're literally.
even seeing the way they eat the tuna, it was fucking
You're like,
scary. That was when I was most scared. I was like, God, this thing could tear me apart.
Yeah, without any.
Did you let that fear get out of control, or was it just like, this could tear me apart? All right, I'm okay.
What was it like?
Yeah, I was more just amazed. I was like, I didn't think I'd ever experience seeing such a dangerous animal this close. And it was an insane experience. Honestly, I recommend it to everyone because it takes quite a bit to kind of go. Like, all my whole family told me to fuck off, and they just went. I went by myself, but yeah, it was an amazing. Everyone I showed to, they tell me I'm a fucking lunatic, but
No, that excites
I did it with like
Yeah,
10.
it gets
I did
me,
it with like
like-
10 to 12 people. It's a pretty thrilling experience, and I don't think you can experience that anywhere else in the world like that. Like seeing that many species, they get tiger sharks.
Dude, I've never seen.
My goodness.
I've never seen like, because the footage, I'm like, oh, 1 or 2 sharks. Dude, there's literally
so
like,
many.
It's like 15, 20.
yeah, like just there and that close, and the fact that you said no cage, like that's just
Are
like.
they-
Are they different in any way compared to the bull sharks here? Do they have an abundance of food there? Are they not as aggressive? Like,
That's the thing. I think because they're preoccupied, I guess their behavior probably has altered a bit because they get food readily from these food sources. And I guess their relationship with humans there is different because they know the humans are going to give them food.
And like, you would have to imagine that they are different, because when you think like people here are different to people halfway around the world,
Yes.
it just makes sense, because I know bull sharks here are like really aggressive,
Yes, that's the thing.
and they like, that water looks super clear, but I know here like bull sharks really love hunting in dirty, murky water. Like, they love the element of surprise, and like when it's dirty, that's when they have that element. But yeah,
That's the thing. Oh, apparently, like, they like tropical water as well, and it's like a marine reserve, so they track all the sharks, and the sharks leave. They migrate away, so they keep. It doesn't change their migration patterns and stuff, which is good. Like, they
it
still are
keeps
living
it's ethical.
ethical, and they're still doing the same behaviors. But yeah, that was Fiji. I did that. A lot of like waterfalls, hikes, river tours. It wasn't like a cocktail by the beach holiday,
I
which
love that.
everyone kind of
When you
thinks
go like
Fiji
Bali,
is.
Fiji,
Yeah.
Thailand,
Like, I think about like people like, oh, Bali and stuff, and like a few of my friends have said like, let's go to Bali and stuff. Like, my idea of going to Bali would not be that.
a villa.
No.
not at all.
No, like it would just be like, there's so much culture there to experience.
Just any travel for me is never, maybe this changes later in life, but there is no part of me that desires like sitting down in a hotel or a luxury. Like when I was hiking last year, like went to the middle of Australia and did a big hike, and for me it's like, oh, I'm going on holidays. Like, that is my holiday. That is me going on an awesome trip. And everyone's like, as if you don't just want to sit down at a resort and drink cocktails and this and that. It's like, no, none of that appeals to me. I love new experience, and as you said, like, just going away and having all these cool experiences, it's going
That's
to
the
only
thing.
grow us more.
I guess that's what people value. Like, I went in a group of 10 people, and it was like, a lot of it was like my mum's siblings. And it's interesting to see everyone has very different sort of travel ideas. So you had to cater towards different things. Like, no one wanted a shark dive, or no one wanted to do that kind of stuff as well. I guess it's harder traveling in big groups because you got to sort of cater towards that. It becomes a bit of a compromise game. But I very much enjoy that sort of stuff as well. I guess it's interesting, like my mum, I guess she works as a GP, she works like long hours and stuff, so her idea, she just wants to switch off. Like, and I think that's a lot of people as well, whereas I like to, me switching off is, not really, so I can never switch off. That's the hard
Switching
part.
off is you just like taking your
You just
mind off
wanna-
that, putting that on hold.
You just want to put
Yeah.
your energy somewhere else.
Somewhere else, yeah, definitely.
Direct into new wild experiences.
Yeah,
you've never
definitely.
had.
It's hard to just switch off. Like, that's
sure.
that's
I couldn't do
That's
that.
tough.
Do you have any like aspirations of where you want to travel to next? Like, do you have any big travel goals or anything like that?
I'm going South Australia in November, which would be cool. Have you guys been to South Australia?
No, but we're
I've
about
driven through it
You drove
before,
through it? Oh, true.
but it was like I was driving to do the hike in the middle of Australia, so
nice,
I was there for
Was it
8
cool
hours
terrain?
maybe.
Oh,
Oh, beautiful. There's this there's this mountain pass, the one I showed you with the campsite that we drive through. I forget what it's called. I'll show you later.
Oh, yeah.
It's like such a small mountain range, but we were driving through it, and when I went, it was so green and luscious, and I was like, because I'd just gone from the contrast to like red dirt, like out in New South Wales, to just this beautiful, nice mountain range.
nice. Okay. Well, we're just planning to hire a car and drive around Kangaroo Island or something like that. So that'd be cool. Yeah, that's the main one. Other than that, no other ones. I probably want to do Africa in some point in my life. I just watch too much Planet Earth, so not to do Africa.
One of my best mates from primary school, he's actually doing like a year in Africa at the moment. He's been there, I want to say, since February, so he'll be back like next year early. He's going to come on the podcast as well, but he's insane. So basically, from what I understand, he's doing like a year in a safari. So I think it was like 6 months studying and then 6 months like working as like a safari operator. And I think at the moment he's in like the Congo, and which is like, and I was messaging him because I actually bumped into his mum, and his mum was just like quite concerned because it's like pretty red hot over there. And even I messaged him like, dude, like, what are you doing? And he's like, dude, yeah, it's pretty red hot. Like, I'm quite fearful, but like, you only live once, right? And he'll like, I really like how he does social media. It's very like, he rarely posts, but he'll just like put stories up of like just real in the moment stuff. And it's like, there's no context given, but it's just like a video of him like driving on this car, and there's like 50 kids. He's driven through this village, and they're just like running on the car, like so happy. And the next one's just like massive guns. Next one's just like all these like wild elephants, where he's like starting right here, and on the back, like just off the edge is like elephants, giraffes, all these wild beasts. So I'm so keen to chat with him because the experiences he would have had over a year of living there is going to be insane.
What's he doing in the Congo? He's just traveling?
No, I'm pretty sure he's doing like, it's like through the course, through the safari course.
Right, interesting.
I believe. Yeah.
Wow, the Congo sounds wild. There was like a guest who went on the Joe Rogan podcast talking about the Congo, and it just sounds insane. Like some unspeakable stuff happens there.
Yeah. So I'm so interested. Africa seems cool. I met this guy in Vietnam like 2 months ago, and he like traveled pretty much all through Africa, and he just said like it is seriously one of the most amazing continents you could travel through.
Yeah. Do you guys have any travel plans, or you just went to Vietnam?
I went to Vietnam 2 months ago with a mate, just for 2 weeks. That was the first like international trip I'd done as like an adult, and without like my parents. So it was so cool because last time I went overseas prior to that was when I was 13. Obviously I didn't know anything when I was 13. I know nothing now, but have a bit more of a perspective. So it was
just a bit more of an individual.
It was so awesome. 100%. I want to do. It's kind of loosely in the books, but we met this guy in Vietnam, this South African guy, Seb, and next year we're kind of loosely planning on hiking Kilimanjaro, and then I want to fly to Spain and hike the El Camino. But yeah, I want to travel the world for sure. I don't necessarily have the aspiration to tick off every country because, like, I think for me, like that could turn into like an unhealthy pressure of like just needing to tick it off, taking away from the joy of travel. I also understand you can't experience everything there is to do in life in your lifetime. So I just want to make my experiences like genuine. I want to give my attention and time to them. But yeah, travel because I love new experiences. So
yeah, I would say for me, like in terms of travel, it would be probably not opposite to you, but in terms of like, yes, I want to see lots of places, but I really would like to immerse myself in a culture for a long period of time. So like I've talked about moving just to somewhere like with my partner for like a long period of time, and in a culture where like I have literally no background, you know what I mean? I would love to move somewhere like that to just completely relearn cultural values. I think that would just take a lot, like there's so much lesson in that, and bringing that back home here. I just think like I've been so lucky being brought up in not just the typical like being brought up in like a nice like area and stuff like that, just such a good like family, like everything's been perfect for me. So I really want to go and experience some places that aren't perfect, and go through that adversity. I think I do seek a lot of adversity because I just didn't have it when I was younger.
And it's important for, I think even just as a first world gen, it's very important to seek. I guess that's a lot of the reason why we do exercise and seek discomfort as well, because otherwise I'm originally from Sri Lanka, like my background, but I was born here, and I guess being brought up in a first world country, it's very easy to be stuck in like a cushy sort of bubble and very comfortable, become very spoiled, everything gets done for you.
For me, that like, and I probably have to actually like figure this out at some point, but like that's a genuine fear of mine, is to live in that. Nowadays, like from what I understand about things, like at this point, I think it's like that's a real fear of mine, is to be that cushy.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like I mean, Seems like you are
like
seeking the right thing.
and
Yeah, just like actively doing that for the rest of my life. I feel like that's never like achieved.
Yes.
If that makes sense. There's no end point in that. It's kind of just like living a lifestyle that promotes not being that cushy, just because I think that's the only way you're going to progress, right? So yeah, experiencing another culture overseas, like maybe like in my head, like I really want it to be Asia. I think like somewhere in Asia. So like whether it be like somewhere like Japan. I think Japan always comes up for me. I don't know why. I don't know why, but just like just to just go there and live there, as in like have no background on it and just go there and figure it out. Like that would just be massive, and see what I could do like in that time.
Like you want that culture shock.
Yeah.
Yes. The Japanese. Have you been to Japan before?
Dude,
Japan.
the only place
Been overseas is New Zealand because I have family there.
Yeah.
And I think and just Fiji for a rugby thing.
Rugby
That's
thing.
it.
How old are you guys?
22.
20. Fuck, you guys are young.
You're 26.
Yeah, 27. 27. Yeah. Fucking hell, you guys are young. That's crazy. It's crazy.
You're young as well.
Yeah, you're really young too. Yeah.
But it's crazy you guys have this sort of life perspective at 22. That's pretty insane. Like, no, it's like props to you guys. Like,
cheers, man.
it's
Thank you.
awesome.
I
Like,
would almost like have to just pass that on to my family, like my
Yeah, me
parents
too.
and just my environment growing up. Like I'm
Yeah.
a product of that environment. I didn't intentionally do anything. It's just
Yeah.
I'm
Like
here.
Now this thing is probably the most I've ever had my hand on the steering wheel.
yes.
Do you know what I mean? Everything else has been set up for me. So like,
Well,
I have to thank
that
what
just
you did.
shows like the importance of having like these mentors or guidance. Like,
so
it's
important,
just
man.
Definitely.
insane. And like, I guess that's what we can pass on towards our kids as well. I guess like my parents moving from Sri Lanka, they're constantly sort of, as in we were born into this first world generation, like, you know, Maslow's hierarchy of needs,
Yeah,
like the
yeah.
five, like
Yeah.
we're just automatically in these top two tiers because we have food, shelter already catered for us, whereas all these other people are just constantly sort of in that survival mode, figuring things out. So I guess in terms of parenting, you'll find this in a lot of sort of ethnic households, like they don't not value your aspirations, dreams and things like that. They just want you to survive, like do a
yes.
degree, get to do this.
Just built in there probably.
almost probably DNA just to keep, well, obviously it's built in everyone's DNA to survive, but like more so in them is just like,
It's
That
what
is
they
your
know.
purpose. Yeah.
That's all they know. That's the thing, and you can't blame them obviously as
no.
well. Like obviously as a kid, you're probably
Yeah.
like some probably kids resent them for that, but as you get older, you develop that
Start to
perspective and
understand.
understand that.
Well, yeah, and just,
for us, like I feel like being so privileged is like, it's really hard to conceptualize. Like it's really difficult, like because it's, oh, that sounds funny because it's difficult to think about how privileged you are, but it is because you have so, I think it's like if you're thinking about it in the right way, it's like you have an abundance of opportunity. Like,
You can't fathom the amount of opportunity we have.
that's what I'm trying to say, and it's kind of just like thinking about that's what makes me be so afraid of being so cushy, because it's like there's so much opportunity they could be taking, and that speaks to what we're doing now, is just being intentional with that and just trying to sap as much opportunity as possible, because we're so blessed to be gifted with the opportunity.
People definitely get caught up in the thought of that they have like little opportunity or they can't do much with what they have, but like a great display of how you can really do anything with anything is like the guy that traded the paperclip for a house. Like, have you heard that story?
No, I haven't.
Okay,
Sorry.
so he did a TED talk on it, but basically traded a paperclip and then traded it for a pen, and like someone built up and traded it for a house in the end. Started off with a red paperclip. He was just sitting in his office desk one day and just thought of that idea and went out and lived it. His resource, a paperclip, eventuated to a house. Think about all the resources we have. Yes. Limitless. Literally, the opportunities are limitless with what we could achieve. So
I think the thing that makes us afraid of that, or like we shy away from that, is just the like time it takes. Because yes, there is the opportunity, but like there also is the time factor, and obviously time is such a like priceless commodity. So because you would just think though, like we're so blessed, why wouldn't we all just take the opportunity? Like what's the barrier? Like it's almost a question I'll put to you guys. Like what is the barrier? Like why do we not like all go, everyone who has this opportunity, why do we all not just like try and sap it for what it's worth?
because it's that fear zone that stops us. Like you have the comfort zone, the fear zone, and outside of that is growth. And
It's because
it's that fear, is that like pressure keeping people within the comfort zone. It's like the Simpsons movie, The Dome. Like that's why nobody left the dome. The Simpsons found the exit, but nobody else left the dome because they're just stuck within that comfort. It's like if you really want it, you're going to find a way out.
Yeah.
And ultimately it results to growth.
Yeah, 100%.
But it's a very uncomfortable route.
Oh, for
That's the
sure.
problem. Yeah.
For sure, but it's just once you understand what it does for you, it is honestly life-changing.
But like I said, it's like making that habitual, like actually like practicing that, and it gets easier to recognize the benefit in it and the growth, because it's obviously tough. And it's not like, it's almost like you don't get better at dealing with the pain or like the toughness of uncomfortable things. It's more like you just get better at understanding the growth you're going to get rather than dealing with the shit, because it's still shit. It's just, you know that it's like going to bring you good things.
And it just takes reps, and the more you repeat that thought process, like that's what David Goggins, he doesn't even think, he just leans into discomfort. Like it's almost like a natural.
It's normal for him, which is crazy to say, right?
It is just putting in the reps. And it's like, you can relate it to like learning to drive a manual car, and these, like, even I've heard surfing's similar. I'm not at that point yet, but where like when I was learning to drive a manual car, it's so hard to do, and you're conscious, like you get in the car and you can't do it, and you keep going at it, and one day it is literally a light bulb. You just get in and you can just drive. You can just do it. And I've heard surfing's the same, and it's that same thing with discomfort. Like you just keep grinding at it, and yes, it's always uncomfortable, but then one day you're just like, oh, this is my life. I just do it now. I get it.
Yep.
Definitely.
So beneficial.
Is there anything that like you want to touch on in terms of like
Any questions you want to ask?
Anything you want to say?
anything you want to?
Oh, just in general, like
Yeah.
We just like to give you the floor. Like
The
in
floor.
terms of if you had anything you wanted to talk about.
Topic wise, no, I think we covered quite a bit in terms of what we do. Like we did like physio, life perspective, psychedelics,
travel.
Travel in general as well.
Everything.
Do you guys have any overarching like life goals? Because I didn't ask you guys what you guys have in terms of as goals.
Yeah. Every time we get asked.
You get asked? Oh, sorry. That's like very common.
It's more like people ask goals orientated with the pod, but you ask the broad question of life, which is
cool.
great.
I'm just analysing your questions.
But like, I actually really like it because it just makes me affirm things better. Because I get asked it like twice a week. You know what I mean?
It's hard to quantify that. It doesn't have to be a definitive answer, but more,
Yeah, and again, it changes, but the word I always come back to is just intention. Like, making sure I'm doing intentional things and try and, like every other, this isn't unique to me, and sometimes we feel like it's unique, but making some sort of impact. Everyone wants to make an impact, so I obviously want to do that. But yeah, trying not to live. Josh asked me a question in a pod the other week. It was, what would you say to yourself, like, not in 30 years, like the Kyle at 30? And I'd say like get up off the couch, as in like, don't fall into that comfort. When this kicks off, like at the point that it does go really well for us and we're doing really well, like don't let the temptations fall in, and just stick with like the simple things. Like I have so many simple things at the moment, and we've been talking about like your circle growing smaller and stuff like that. Just life is so simple, don't make it too complex. So just being intentional with the things I do, and try not to, like, I'm very curious, so I'll try and do a lot of things, like really try and not do too many things, you know what I mean? Focus on being good at specific things. Obviously try different things, but in terms of like actually trying to master something, like just stick to different things and always listen. Like you're never going to know everything. So just to stay on that path, like I feel like I'm setting up these values now that I really cherish. And obviously, like, I'm not going to say that that's what I want forever, but at the moment, I think just the way I see things, like in terms of family and friendship, like just relationships and like happiness, fulfillment, like all those different things, just keep on like living out the way I want to live those, no matter the scale of how things go, if that makes sense.
That's sick. I would say for me, like being Christian, for me, it's just being centered in like what I see as God's will. Just being in the eye of the storm and knowing that like there'll be points where I walk off and I'm like in that storm and I'm getting freaking whipped around and torn to pieces, but just like coming back to the center and existing within that, like the vertical tunnel where I can be clear and be stable and know where I am. And a lot of that looks like as Kyle said, like intention, a lot of it looks like knowing the core values and what I stand for and what I believe in, not corrupting myself for other people, being curious, always like having a childlike faith and a childlike view on life. Just like finding the laughs and finding the smiles and throughout the day, not taking myself too seriously.
100%. Dude, because we're talking like, because we're talking so seriously now for a long period of time, but still be silly.
Still be silly, yeah.
Still be silly, like
Enjoy the simple things.
it's a constant thing that I remind myself of, to not take myself too seriously and just laugh at life and laugh at myself.
I'm so easily amused by like the dumbest shit.
So yeah, like always remembering to
Having
laugh
that.
because life is just so fun that way. I think, yeah, it's just not enjoyable when you're too serious all the time.
Yeah.
And just constantly like striving to be better. Like,
Yeah.
do you know Nim's dad Persia? Have you seen 14 Peaks?
Yes.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it, sorry, but I've heard of it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
He's the
He's the climber that
Okay.
achieved that amazing feat.
The goat.
And I read his book and I can't remember if it was a chapter or he just had this line. It was basically like the relentless pursuit of excellence. And I love that. And I just want to constantly be striving to be better. And yeah.
It's like a never-ending journey.
It's a never-ending journey. And
Gotta
that's,
say, like, there's no retirement.
yeah, and that's clearly shown through, like, as we're talking about, you can't experience everything in life. Like, your comfort zone could never be fully comfortable because there's always going to be something uncomfortable. So it's like, you're never going to achieve it all. And that's what's great, is it just shows us it's an ongoing journey that won't end.
Interesting. That concept of like longing, like there's this lady called Susan Cain. She was on this podcast. You know Tim Ferriss?
Yeah.
He was on the Tim Ferriss podcast. She wrote a book called Bittersweet, and she talks about how life is simultaneously bitter and sweet at the same time, meaning positive and negative. They can't exist without each other. There's going to be death, but there's also going to be birth. There's going to be beautiful experiences, but unhappy ones. And you can't avoid either one. And she talks about how human beings, there's this concept of longing that we always have. I don't know if you know like much about like minor key music, but like melancholic music, like people who enjoy like sad music.
Yeah.
There's something about like minor scales where, say, like there's major scales and minor scales, but minor scales tend to have like a lack of resolution at the end of the scale, which kind of keeps the listener longing for something. That's why like sad music, people aren't sad when they're doing it. Like it almost gives them a sense of energy because they're longing for a concept, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And as human beings, we're constantly doing things to bring, so like artists, they're constantly longing for something. Like an artist pretty much like makes music or writes something or does something to try and make a more beautiful place come towards them, if that makes sense. They're longing for something. It's like the driving force in life. They're constantly searching for something to bring that perceived beautiful place close towards them, but they never actually get there, if that makes sense. But it's that constant, like what we're talking about, this journey of never-ending excellence or constantly longing for this concept, if that makes sense. I've said longing like fucking 10 times. It was like a drinking game. But I don't know if you get that general gist, but it's
for sure.
And what the interesting thing about all these, like we've probably referenced a lot of people speaking about these things, and they all have similar sort of concepts. It's just different ways of bringing those all about. If that makes sense. And it's just fucking super interesting. And it's very, it just reinforces the idea. All these things are like, they can sound super cliched if you break them down simply, but everyone has all these complex ways of bringing them together.
Definitely.
And I think it's just interesting how we like, I've never met you guys before, but it's just interesting how through all our life experience, we've kind of come to this like common understanding of this is what we kind of want to achieve.
Yeah,
which
definitely.
It's
insane.
So cool.
That's insane.
It is
It's,
wild, hey.
Yeah.
It's fucking awesome, actually.
that's
that's
sick,
just what humans are good at. Like we're really good at sharing.
Yeah.
Like as in like we're like, well, when we let ourselves share, we're really good at it.
Like, and I find that
Well, it just makes sense. Like
Such a
we're
good
the
tool.
same. Like we're all different, but same species. Like we have like everything works very similar in our body, so it makes sense that we should be able to connect and we can communicate with each other. So it just makes sense.
definitely.
Yeah, it's so cool.
That's sick.
life is just great.
Yeah.
Life's good, man. I find myself saying that a lot now. Just when I'm out with my mates, like I'm just like, life's fucking great. And I know my life is good. And I used to feel like I went back to Sri Lanka a few years ago, and I felt this innate sense of guilt all the time because I was born into such a fortunate circumstance, and I could see all my Sri Lankan counterparts looking at me with this sense of envy, because it's just by luck of the draw that I was born in such a fortunate circumstance, not in the bottom 3 tiers. And it used to sort of overcome me with guilt, but I started to feel like that, and I spoke to people about it, and it's counterproductive feeling that guilt, because you didn't choose the circumstance, but we can all utilize our privilege to create that impact. And that's what, it's almost like I feel it's like my duty to do that.
No, for sure. 100%,
That's
man.
what I was
Like,
trying to get with the opportunity.
Opportunity,
It's
that's what I
just
mean,
like,
yeah.
How do we not? Like, if
you have that opportunity, it's like we kind of have to. That's their part is surviving.
Yes.
Like their part is surviving. Someone who's not as fortunate, but the fortunate like part is equally like defying comfort and using that to impact. I don't know. It's like that's the other side.
And we
of it.
both like learn off each other. Like you can go to developing countries and see people that are just filled with envy of what we have, and it's like, okay, they haven't got it figured out. But then you see people that are just so joyful and happy, and you're like, wait, how are they super happy? But they have nothing. But then you're like, wait, why aren't I as happy as them? I have so much more. And then like we just both learn off each other.
as well. Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, people are fascinating. The world's fascinating. Life's just
Multiple
awesome.
perspectives, yeah.
It's
Can
great.
never get bored. I don't think I've been bored in a long time.
That's awesome, man.
That's sick.
I love to
I just
hear
don't
that.
think I've been bored. Probably as a kid, I used to get bored. Like I'm like, fuck. I mean, I guess as a kid, just played video games, just
Well, it's never
holidays.
enough when you're a kid.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. You're just like,
I always like have an interesting, not an interesting take on boredom, but for me, I find like creativity stems from boredom, and I think we're in a world where there's so much opportunity for stimulus now that we quite often don't allow ourselves to get bored. I think that's why a lot of people lack creativity. Where I don't know if you're like, people take their phone like when they're going for take a shit. And it's like, just let yourself sit and think versus like stimulating, or like go for a walk around the block and take nothing. Just sit with your thoughts and allow yourself to get bored, to have some form of creativity spark. But we're just constantly looking for this
Like stimulated,
stimulus.
yeah, that's interesting. As in being left alone with our thoughts, and I guess that's why we do all these practices. I mean, we're not alone with our thoughts now. We're still conversating, but we're not on our phones. I guess exercise, running, you're left alone with your thoughts. Have you ever done a flotation tank?
Yeah,
before?
too.
Done this.
I've done one, but I wasn't not happy with it. But I know I could have like done it better.
Gonna be. I want to do it again as well. I've only done it once, but it's interesting. It's like you're literally left with nothing but your
It
thoughts.
is the most like desensitizing. I mean, that's what it's made for. But it is like they hit it to the T.
Yeah, it's interesting. What, you didn't enjoy your experience, or you?
I don't know. I think maybe when I did it, I can't actually remember when I did it. It was when I was like 17, 18 or 18, 19. Yeah. And I just like, I don't know. I don't think I just took it for what it's worth.
Yeah.
I was just like, this is cool. I don't know. I think maybe I put too much into it. Or I just need to just go and do it.
You just have to be
If I did it now, it would be fantastic. I just think that when I did it, I was just like, I didn't really use it for what it was.
Yeah, no, they're great.
It's sick. Yeah, I want to do another one soon. Actually, I think I'm doing one soon.
There's
Like
one in
City Cave.
Pomona,
Yeah.
that's
Because it's that one time you literally can't, like, you're not sleeping, but you have no other sensory distraction. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Everything just comes up in your mind. And again, like that is a great time to get bored. I really lived out. I was talking to you about this. I don't know if I've said this on a pod at all, but I had this, I guess, a normal fear of snakes.
Yeah.
And I was, I find like for me, exposure therapy is the best way to get over any fear I've ever had. Just like run head on into it and do it enough, then you get over it. And I was in this tank and I was like, just I don't know, I just like somehow got onto snakes, and I started like, because in the one I was in, it had like an option. You could like just have a little neck float. There was like a floaty there, and I just put it, I had tried it without it and I found my head was dipping, so I put it under my neck. And when I would like push one side down, obviously because it's buoyancy, this side wants to pop up, so it like was pushing my head like this, and I just envisioned myself being a snake, and I was just like slithering on the ground, moving my head, and I was like, why am I afraid of this guy? Like I'm just trying to hunt and live as a snake. Like I made myself a snake. I'm just trying to live and hunt. I'm not trying to do anything. Like, I'm not out to get you.
Yeah.
Like, why are you fearing me?
Yeah.
And then I was like, I wonder if I'm still scared of them after this. And it was cool because I had my ride a couple weeks after that, where I was riding through like Victorian high country. There was going to be so many snakes. And I was like, I'm so keen to see if I'm still terrified of them. And I rode past like a total of probably like 30 odd snakes, like mostly browns and red bellies. And some were like half a meter away from me. And I think a combination of gaining that perspective and also just the exposure of seeing so many, I'm just not afraid of them
That's sick.
That's awesome.
That's sick,
anymore.
man.
And like, I'm sure I'm not like a snake. I'm not like, oh, put it on me. But I'm not like, I don't freeze. I'm like,
Yeah, right. Which you used to?
yeah, I would actually freeze. Like I saw a red belly once and I just froze, and my girlfriend at the time had to like grab me and like pull me and
Holy shit.
I was like
You haven't
terrified.
told me this. You've told someone else this. You haven't
Yeah.
told me that.
Yeah.
That's fucked.
That's so interesting.
Yeah. Just, it was so cool. Again, like the flotation tub just
Man.
allows that space to
Nice.
just,
And that was purely your mind doing that.
Yeah.
It wasn't drug induced.
No.
exactly.
Induced.
I was just like, I became a snake and I was slithering on the ground and I was like feeling the leaves and snake sticks on my stomach as I slithered over. I was like, oh, it's just kind of fun. Like this perspective as well, because I'd never
Now you
thought
just
about,
want to be a snake.
I just want to be a snake.
Yeah.
But I was like, what's it like to see from the ground as well? I'm like, the world is so different.
Walk into your room one day and you're just on the ground. You're like, oh, Carl, you're here. You've got like a little like tongue or something. You're like on the ground. Like, what the fuck, dude? You're like, oh, nothing.
Yeah, honestly.
The flotation tanks are great, and
bad,
boredom is great for that stuff.
That's good.
Yeah. We do this thing at the end of every pod where it's like a challenge of the week. So pretty much we ask our guests to think one. You can take your time, but it's pretty much a challenge that we'll carry out either throughout the whole week or on a set day on the week that your pod will be released. So just like take your time, or if you have one off your head, just think of a challenge that we can do.
Like, you can have to do with what? Yeah,
Us
for
and
us and anyone listening.
If yourself, you want to partake in it.
Interesting. Okay.
Right.
Is there any like any examples?
criteria.
Any criteria?
You want
Okay.
some examples?
Whether it's something that you
Yeah. Or do you have an example? Just an example.
Some guy challenged us to, he's like learning skills. He has 6 hours left to learn to ride a unicycle. So he's like, for 6 hours, try and learn a skill within 6 hours.
6
And
hours.
someone told us to like sacrifice next week, like do something selfless.
cool.
It could literally be anything.
Oh, literally anything.
It
Okay.
can be anything. Like, most people, because like whatever they'll base it off something we've talked about today, just because your mind's in that, but you don't have to be like that.
Yeah, that's sick.
Whatever
Okay.
it is.
I mean, you can take your time.
Do you guys journal?
Yeah.
You guys already journal? Okay, so
Me,
not
not
enough. Not enough? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like, I'm so on and off with it.
I guess journaling for 5 minutes a day. That's pretty tangible, but like
Yeah.
if something, I guess it's just taking some sort of time out to reflect, you know, on your day. If anyone wants to do that, I need to do that more as well. But I think I'm gonna try to do that.
Hell yeah.
Sick.
Yeah, let's
That's
do it.
awesome.
It's just easy to do rather than nothing too crazy. Yeah, that's all. Another thing I want. Do you guys have to go, by the way?
No,
just one thing I want to talk about.
100%.
But are you guys happy with that challenge?
Yeah,
Five-minute
no, I love
journaling
that.
a day?
I love that.
okay.
It's
Yeah, we
great.
just leave it up to you.
It's a great
Yeah.
practice.
Just something you want to write about. Doesn't have to be. You can write about anything.
Yeah,
anything
yeah,
you
yeah.
want to do. But
Yeah,
5 minutes,
yeah.
that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Therapy. Seeing a therapist. Because I was speaking to my girlfriend, because she doesn't have any like mental illness or anything, but she went to see a therapist recently and found it like super fruitful. Oh, she's seen it like a few times, but she found her most recent one super fruitful.
Yeah.
And I mean, guess anyone listening to this, even if you don't have any mental illness, like a message would be like it can be super fruitful to just talk to someone like of an objective nature, or just to seek therapy.
Yeah.
Just not even if you have a mental illness, but just if you have stuff in your life you want to talk about, like career-wise, or like if you're unsure about something. And actually, she found it super beneficial that she prepared for a therapy session. So she wrote down what she wanted, and then she asked the therapist those questions, or she kind of guided the session herself to get the most out of it, what she wanted, which was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Because usually, like, I guess the therapist kind of guides and then they just flow on, but she found she had more control of the situation when she went in with the preparation. Yeah.
Cool.
Do you know Israel Adesanya?
Yes.
Yeah, so he has a really great outlook on like therapy, and basically what he says is because he's a therapist. I'm not sure if it's like sports related. Yeah. But anyway, the way he speaks about it is like we eat healthy foods and like we do these things so that like we don't get terminally ill and like have to go and see a doctor. Like you go and see a doctor if you have a sniffle so that you can get fixed, kind of thing. It's like you shouldn't wait till you're like mentally ill to go and see someone. It's like look at talking to a therapist is like just eating your greens and veggies so you can like go and just keep you healthy.
So it's like what? Because the way we all see it is like once we're sick, like mentally mentally ill, then you go see someone. It's like, why wait?
Yeah, literally. Well, that's why I preach it on physio. Like prevention is way better than like symptomatic. Like treat the cause rather than the symptom. Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, definitely.
So
I've had this thought for like at least a year now where I'm like, I should just go. And it's always something that I just don't actually action. But I'm like, I just know it would be so beneficial to just go there and be like, actually, I don't know, just want to talk to someone. It'd be a great conversation.
Yeah.
Like
there's barriers and things. I guess it's not as affordable for everyone, and every therapist is different. That's the only thing. So I guess that's the
100%.
barrier to all of this. But I guess if people can work towards that.
It kind of relates to your challenge that you're saying in terms of like just taking time to like reflect on things. And it's like maybe you do that through a therapy session or like maybe it's some other way, like journaling or something like that.
For sure. And I find like honestly these very therapeutic like podcast. It's just you're sitting down with someone having a very like intentional, purposeful conversation versus just like a catch up with a friend. Like we have no idea what we're going to talk about. Like we know your base of physio, so like I'm assuming we'll talk about that, but who knows what we're going to branch into. I couldn't have predicted what we spoke about today. Sure, you couldn't have either.
Like we don't prepare shit. Like we just come in and talk.
It's so great. It's so great. It's so therapeutic. I leave here just feeling great, feeling calm. And the reason I think that is because we're genuine in it, because we're open and honest. But if you are lying and you're hiding things, you leave here with that guilt and that shame just adds up and piles up, and like then you're not yourself.
That's awesome. Does your do you have a whole friend circle that's kind of geared in this mental state? Well, I mean, like you guys have these accountability groups. You're saying,
so
that's insane. Like you don't hear many people having that. Which is
like that was credit to one of the guys I met in Vietnam when I was there with my mate Pat. He told us about like. He has one in South Africa. And then we're like, oh, we should start that here. So we just messaged a bunch of the guys and got around and did the first one, had the second one like a couple days ago, whatever it was. And it's so purposeful. Like it's so beneficial as well to just come around, intentionally talk, intentionally be honest, open, vulnerable. Because like you have to like tell people where you messed up. Like you have to tell people like what you want to be doing better and where you fell short.
It's almost like a performance review in a way, which is interesting because it's my mate's birthday yesterday, but this is his birthday weekend and he wants to have a performance review of himself,
I love that.
which is interesting.
That's sick.
And it kind of goes towards this whole accountability perspective. And like, I guess, sorry to detract from what you're saying, but more, I guess I have a friend circle that the reason we're such good friends is because we keep each other accountable, and I guess that's a sign of a good friend because
it's actual friendship. Like it's like you actually care about the performance of that other person. Like that's massive.
You just don't want yes men. You don't want people saying like, oh, you did great. Like you want someone to be able to tell you, dude, you could do so much better. Like that was terrible what you did.
But also celebrate the wins as well, because I feel like it's different. Like I have that with a lot of my friends. It's like we really celebrate the things we do well and we really work on the things that we need to work on. Like it's a really healthy balance between the two, which is hard because you want to fall into the you're so great, and then but you could also easily fall into you suck, because there's so many things there's an infinite amount of things you suck at in the world. So it's just like you could just always keep going. Do you know what I mean? So it is like a fine line, but the accountability thing is so sick. Like even one of the guys, like he was talking about shit that he already knew the answer to, but he just needed to verbalize it. Do you know what I mean? Like he presented the answer, and it was just like he just needed to talk about it, like just to articulate it out loud to other people.
And that's like the idea of journaling and things like that. It's having the thought internally, but then actually just putting it out on paper or saying it to someone. It just changes your perspective, and you're like, oh, now I can action it, now I can fix it. And the great metric for friends is like, do they challenge you? It's just like you clearly have that with your mates, and we have that with our mates. It's such a good, healthy thing. Like, do they challenge you?
Definitely. And it's hard to find. It's definitely hard to find.
You gotta cherish
Very
it.
fortunate.
You just gotta search for it. I think. Like,
definitely.
don't settle for less.
Yes.
Because they're out there.
Most definitely.
they're out there for sure.
And this friend circle doesn't just come by like from one interaction. It's multiple things.
It's work.
And then it's filtering all the other bullshit, and then we're here we are.
Yeah, 100%.
It's a beautiful place to be. Wouldn't want to be anywhere else.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, thank you so much, man, for coming on. Like,
amazing.
that was
Thank
a
you for
great
that.
conversation.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Honestly,
fucking awesome.
it was so sick.
Yeah.
I love it. Like,
Dude, and I'm keen to run the new Newcastle Marathon with you.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Literally,
Yeah,
We got to exchange details. We got to surf as well.
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully this is not the end.
No, for sure.
Yeah,
Definitely
yeah.
not.
This is good.
You're on this
I mean,